shoes last night to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Alfred.
Boy, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh! You wanna get sued?
Judgment, Alfred.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a-running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, father. I love it when he does that.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Let's try this again. I see everyone in here, so glad to see everyone. Seven True, good to see you. I see SCP Foundation. I think I said it right tonight. Rogue, I think that was my line. Good to see all of you guys. We have Cinderella, Mama Risa. We have Connie S, Tony, Vic, Kiki, True Crime 2025. We have Little Redo. We have Born a Honey and Hindsight 2002, not in that order. But I'm so glad to see all of you tonight. I found some interesting little tidbits while I was watching some interviews, and I kind of wanted to, put them together in a comparison format. Hey, little Miss Sharon, good to see you. And so I think it'll be kind of interesting. Some of the things that I found out, when I kind of slow them down a little bit, right? So we're gonna kind of slow things down tonight and slow jam some of these interviews, because I think it's an important thing to do, especially when we're seeing different stories play out and different people are hearing different things. And so then we have panelists that are not quite sure on a lot of the facts and details in the case, because only people that have studied it over and over again. Oh, good, Seven True. Thank you so much for being here. It kind of helps for us to look back on things, right? So, hey, Ann Reynolds, good to see you. And welcome in everyone who's coming in tonight. So I thought there were some interesting little tidbits that I found. We've had a lot of silencing, right, either side. And whenever we silence anyone in the case, and I mean that goes for both sides, just in my opinion, then we're doing a disservice to the case, right? Because we're not getting the whole bit of facts that we really need to solve what's going on. Not to say that, we will solve any of the cases, but, without the facts, it'll never be solved. So, hey, Blessed, good to see you. Thank you for coming in. And so, I think it's really important to hear all aspects and all sides, especially when Sebastian did go missing from Chris and Katie's house. It's important to kind of go over their statements and analyze them. So I didn't really have a chance to do that with the other interviews and really get to know kind of the placement of things because, the original Holly Thompson interview, I kind of learned the placement of things within the videos, within the pieces that we were kind of looking at. But these newer ones, like the one that happened after a year, that Sebastian has been missing, we see what was said back then and what was said now, and what was said now and what was said back then. So I think it's important to kind of, see how the story has changed or evolved, and kind of how to see how the original interviewer of the Proud Feet handles the interview and that sort of thing, right? Because of course, Michelle Thompson, she knows the story, right? She was the first one to hear it. She covered the story first. She met with the Proud Feet, right? She's kind of feeling them out or getting to know them. Hey, Michelle Scott. And so I think it's really important to kind of see how how she reacts to certain things. And also, I think this time around, there was no lawyer, right? This time around, there is a lawyer, but in the first interview, there was no lawyer. So I think the questioning is going to be a little bit different because you can see how it's milder. And I didn't include the whole, interaction because most of it was, what do you miss about Sebastian? What do you think about him coming home? But it was really different from when they spoke with America's Most Wanted just recently. So I wanted to kind of pepper in a little bit of what they said here and there. Also kind of rewinding back to the first Holly Thompson interview, I think is an important thing to do, right? And let's go ahead and I want to just watch this first clip, and we'll kind of slow jam the clip a little bit in this one.
Ooh, baby, I like it raw. Wu-Tang Killer, the one.
Viewers, before we end this, I guess your message for them is just keep hope alive.
Remember him,
keep looking,
share his face, because talking about him is what we want to do, but we want to make sure that people know his face. We want to know that people know who they're looking for, and we would just ask that everyone just kind of be aware of your surroundings in general. You never know, and all it takes is just one person that could make a difference. And go ahead.
I would say, if anything, constantly being vigilant, just looking out there, aware of what your surroundings are. Please, if you see something, call 911, call TBI. I know there's a lot of other things out there, but
we would encourage.
It needs to be segregated, like just a single point of right back to law enforcement. That's where it needs to go. Anybody that sees anything, just report it, please.
Do you feel?
Call TBI. I know there's a lot of other things out there, but
we would encourage.
It needs to be segregated. Like, just call TBI. I know there's a lot of other things out there, but
we would encourage.
It needs to be segregated. Like, just call TBI. I know there's a lot of other things out there, but
we would encourage.
It needs to be segregated. Like, just a single point of right back to law enforcement. That's where it needs to go. Anybody that sees anything, just report it, please.
Do you feel?
A single point of right back to law enforcement. That's where it needs to go. Anybody that sees anything, just report it, please.
Do you feel that there's someone out there right now that knows something? They're just not saying it?
It's hard to say until we can run down this video and figure out what we're seeing. I don't want to speculate. I don't want to, because it's an active investigation. I don't want to add any more
Rumors.
chaos that's already out there. We just want to keep this to the core, Sebastian.
Keeping hope alive.
Yes.
Thank you for talking with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Which is to viewers.
My message would be, first and foremost, thank you. Thank you for helping spread his flyer, his story.
Now, we also contacted law enforcement about the video in our story. The Sumner County Sheriff's Office told us that law enforcement had possession of the original video that the private investigator says is new since 72 hours after Sebastian was reported missing. And after thoroughly investigating this lead, they determined it has no relevance to the case.
The Amber Alert for Sebastian Rogers is still active, and the Sumner County Sheriff's Office says they're still looking for him. The sheriff posted on Facebook that his team is still following every lead and analyzing all evidence. The Sheriff's Office says there have been no confirmed sightings of Sebastian, but they haven't stopped trying to find him. They ask anyone with information to call TBI tip line.
Okay, guys, so 1 year after there was the Facebook post by Sumner County Sheriff's Office. So we were talking about when the last actual press conference was that we had for Sebastian, and that was, I believe, around April 2nd, 2024, right? So it's almost, or it's been a little over a year since they have come out and done a press conference, but at the year mark, there was a Facebook post that Eric Craddock had put out that had said what the news anchor had just said. So, I mean, he didn't really say much, you know, and I wanted to kind of slow a couple of parts down for us there. So going back to the beginning where Katie tells Chris to go ahead, I don't know if she's telling him to go ahead because he is itching to answer the question, or if she's telling him to go ahead because, you know, she doesn't have anything to say. But I thought it was noteworthy because it seemed like she was in control of the conversation. I don't know if it was something that they were acting out that was pre-rehearsed, or if it's something where, you know, like I said, Chris was really itching to answer, and so Katie's like, go ahead. Hey, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, good to see you. She says, it's just, is it just me, or is it strange the way she holds CP's hand? Yeah, it is a little bit weird to me too. I thought the whole kind of, you know, making them hold hands at the end was very weird, and it seemed like an afterthought. It's not something that really even looked like it was meant to be in the piece. It was something that was kind of thrown in after the fact. So I noticed that too, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. You know, because we don't see a lot of that comforting type of behavior from Chris, right? There's no comforting behaviors, no holding hands, no rubbing the back or the shoulder, or saying, hey, it's going to be okay, you can do this, you got this, you know, because it'd be rough sitting next to the person that you love, knowing that your stepson is missing and knowing that they're missing their child. I mean, I can't think of a worse situation to be in other than being the parent that's child is missing, right? Because there's nothing that you can do. You feel kind of helpless. You don't know what to do for the other person besides just be there. And that's why you would see, you know, some sort of endearing, you know, body language, or some sort of reassurance that it's going to be okay, or, you know, you're doing a good job, something like that, because it would just be so hard. Hey, Tony. Tony says, I will stay as long as I can. Oh, good. Thank you so much for being here, Tony. I'm so glad to see you always. I know, girl. Yeah, that's a good point, SL. Good to see you. It shows no expression whatsoever in their tone of voice. And I agree with that, right? And we do see a lot of like very silly, you know, when they're reminiscing about Sebastian, there's a lot of kind of silly connotations that come into play. One of them is right up here where, Katie is going, like this, on the, when she's describing Sebastian while he's on the flamingo. Um, Michelle says no emotion behind words coming out of his mouth. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, we also see, um, no, I did not catch that, Little Reddo. I did not catch that. And we could watch it over again if you guys want. I only have a few short clips tonight, but I really wanted to slow jam them, right? So we can get kind of what they're saying in the moment, right? A little bit better. And I kind of really wanted to break down this statement that Chris had made, that it needs to be segregated, right? Because he's telling people to only call the TBI. That's it. But then he goes back to, there's a lot of things out there, and he's squinting and he's like, don't call them, call the TBI. You know what I mean? Very matter of fact. And then Katie pops in, but then he keeps talking, so she's quiet, but she does say, we would encourage, and then she stops talking, right? But he wants a single point that goes back to law enforcement, and that's where it needs to go, in his opinion. So at first he's saying, call 911, but he didn't call 911. Then he's telling us call the TBI, right? Because there needs to be one point of contact. And it reminded me of in the very beginning when Chris was trying to push all of the traffic over to the TBI, right? And he was claiming that he had some contacts over at the TBI. So in this piece, I noticed him saying this, and he stopped himself after he said it needs to be segregated. But I would really like to have had him finish that thought, because then we could really find out what he's getting at. But what I think that he's getting at is that don't call anybody besides his buddies. So call the local law enforcement, right? And then call the TBI. And that's just my opinion on that. Am I saying that they are his buddies? No, because he talks, talk is cheap. He talks a lot of shit. You know what I mean? So it's very hard to decipher what is true and what's not from him, what's credible and what's not from him. But I will say that I found it very odd that he would say, we need to keep it segregated, right? Because he's always going on and talking about how it's all about Sebastian. And he says that at the end, of course, to kind of solidify everything. And he also makes a noise, where he clicks his tongue, talking about keeping it about Sebastian, right? But I don't know if it is about Sebastian at this point, because, we're just going on and on with this case. And there seems to be people, being harassed and silenced and things like that behind the scenes, on a platform that the Proud Feet regularly go on, right? And they're being completely trashed, and just, they're trying to humiliate anybody who's talking about Sebastian Rogers. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter where your heart is or what good intentions you have. They are going to take you and they're going to, try to discredit you however they can, because they don't like us taking apart these statements. But I don't understand how we couldn't. I don't know how I missed it the first time. And, that's why I really like going over these interviews a couple of times, because I always find new things in them. But it seems like he wants to keep things segregated, right? He wants to keep it to his friends only covering the case, anybody that he only approves of covering the case. And we all know who those channels are. I'm not going to go over a list of them. We all know about the people who have been hurt and harassed and humiliated, and their children have been scared for their lives. We all know who those people are, and I don't need to mention them tonight, but I do need to mention that it's happening, because it's absolutely, unequivocally rotten, disgusting behavior, and it needs to stop. Because it's no longer about Sebastian. It's about keeping it segregated and only going to Chris's friends and only going to who Chris and Katie approve of. And it's not helpful to Sebastian's case. It's not helpful. And Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mama says, is it just, oh, sorry, I read that comment earlier. Michelle says, very rehearsed, just throwing story out there, but no ownership of emotions for her child or accountability for search efforts at all. Right. And, you know, they do mention, because I didn't pull the whole entire interview, but they do mention that they're putting out flyers, and they do mention that people are taking them down. And I do think that that is a very odd thing to throw in there, because it's something that they were throwing in very early on too, saying that people thought Sebastian was found already. But I've heard from local sources that people are deliberately taking down these flyers, whoever is putting them up, and they're deliberately saying that Sebastian has been found already. And it's been happening for the entire case. You know, right around the time of the last press conference, we had the United Cajun Navy who came in and who wrote a statement, and they said that they are no longer going to assist with the search because of all of the threats and all of the bull crap that they have endured since they decided to help with Sebastian's case. It's noteworthy. And, you know, it is my opinion that there were people who were deliberately stopping these searches, yet Eric Craddock states in the press conference on April 2nd that that was not happening, but it clearly was. So when and at what point are we going to stop the BS? And when are we going to cut the shit already? Because it's gotten to the point where it is so out of sorts and it is so wacky that it's borderline dangerous to continue on at this point, right? But the police don't, it doesn't matter to the police. The police think it's like a joke or something, or they don't worry about what happens online. But I thought that there was federal and state laws that protect the things that are happening online and the bullies who are doing it. So at what point are they going to stop this nonsense, right? It's a bunch of nonsense. Michelle says they are repeating rehearsed verbiage verbatim, right? So they're just regurgitating something that they came up with. And I think that that's true, because I know that because I've also been told by a friend who has been interviewed by the news media, right? Just local media of hers, that they give you a list of questions. You are very well prepared for the interview because, of course, they want you to be able to be prepared and answer questions and not be caught off guard, right? It's just a professional way of handling things either way, right? They're not really going to throw you a curveball question. Maybe if you're getting interviewed by like, you know, Nancy Grace or Barbara Walters. But, you know, they're bad bitches. So either way, that is my opinion on that. And Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says she clutches his hand like a child, not like her husband. Well, and you know, there is a lot of childish behavior that we see from Katie. She changes her demeanor constantly. I really would love to ask Holly Thompson, if I could, I would love to ask her what she thought of Katie losing that Southern accent that she had in the first interview. Because if that was me, I don't know that I would see her as a credible person, knowing that she tried to trick me with a Southern accent. And I would probably take offense to it if I was a native Tennessean. Is that how you guys would say yourselves, Tennessean? I would be like, you're trying to talk like me and you're pretending like I'm dumb. That's how I would feel. And that's exactly what she did to Holly Thompson, in my opinion. And Cinderella says, in my opinion, just keep talking CP, spread awareness for Sebastian. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sebastian Wade Drake Rogers. We need to spread awareness for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers Cinderelli. You know, it can't stop us, but I do think it needs to stop the, you know, crazy things that are going on, you know, and I think that you have to be very diligent about it if it's happening to you, you know, and like I said, I'm not going to go into everyone that I know for a fact is battling the bullshit or the drama or getting hurt in real life or any of that stuff, because that part doesn't matter. What matters is that people need to be aware that this is happening, and when it happens, I'm urging you to please don't give it any weight. The more attention that we give to this nonsense, the shit online, bullying of other people, the worse it's going to be, because you're just adding fuel to a fire. So you're going to be responsible for hurting somebody else. You'll be a part of that if you continue to you know, think that it's okay. And that's just the way it is. You know, I mean, I'm not preaching or anything like that, but, you know, hurting other people and going and hurting their children and going real life on people, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's my arch nemesis on the internet. I would never wish that for them in a million years, because it's terrible, you know, and it's a bully mentality, and, you know, we're all too old for it. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, good point, SL. They always look awkward or uncomfortable when they're touching. Well, and it's sad, because I think that, you know, in that situation, that's what you would expect to see, is somebody, you know, comforting the other person, telling them it's okay, you know, things like that. We see the complete opposite with it, right? And any of us that have had a toxic marriage or relationship, we can kind of spot this from a mile away, right? It's like, why is there no affection or, you know, care whatsoever, compassion, even compassion for another human being for what they're going through? But maybe it's because Chris already knows that Katie had something to do with it, and so he has no compassion for her. Maybe, and that's allegedly, in my opinion, right? That is just one hypothetical outcome that actually would fit into this scenario. You know, don't shoot the messenger, hug your wife, you know, act a little, pretend. I mean, otherwise people are going to point it out. And what, you're going to call CPS because somebody pointed that out? Please, get a life. And your little flying monkeys need lives too. And Lil Redo says, I think it is this interview, but not sure. Oh, I'm sorry, Lil Redo. I meant to read your comment above. Remember when she asks him, is he coming home right? Well, she does ask him that, if she thinks that he's coming home. You know, she says that you know, you still have hope. Holly Thompson's approach to this interview was more or less one of like keeping hope alive and, you know, that sort of thing. And, you know, that was the angle that she went with. And I don't fault her for that. There's just a few things that I was wondering, you know, kind of how she felt about it. If I could interview her after the fact, you know what I mean? What did you think about the weird accent that disappeared all of a sudden? And Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, Lil Redo makes you wonder if CP knows what really happened or KP doesn't know everything. Exactly. You know, that's what I'm thinking. You know, it could very well be because he knows. He already knows. You know, it's kind of like you made your bed, lie in it. And that's what a narcissist would do to you, right? They would torture you with the information that they have on you. They would hold it over your head. They dangle it like this and be like, haha, I gotcha. That's what they do. That's a narcissist, you know? Cinderella says, do as I say and not as I do. That's it. You know, and people are out there doing it, you know? I've heard every single channel complain about doing this to other people, but they do it to other people all the time and they think it's funny. It's like a big joke to them that it's okay. You know, it's okay when it's not me. I'll join in the fun as long as it's not me, you know, happening to me. If it's me, I'm going to get up here and cry and have a fit. I'm going to bitch and complain. Then when the opportunity arises for me to go after somebody else, I'm going to go after them, right? Hashtag fuck Staples, right? Yeah, right. Hey, Twitch. Good to see you. Michelle says, if CP knows people at TBI, it's a conflict of interest if he's suspected in a case, though. Well, I think that the good old boys system doesn't give a rat's ass about conflicts of interest. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. They don't give a rat's ass about any of that, because that's what the good old boy system is based on, and that's why these children are never found. That they just go missing, you know, because we got to keep everything quiet, right? Because we've known, you know, Billy Bob from, you know, 20 years ago. He was my friend. Well, there's a missing child, so get over it. Hey, C. Taylor. C. Taylor says, I think he believes TBI won't investigate. He will be shown to be very wrong, in my opinion. Well, and you know, as far as I do know, C. Taylor, I do know that they are investigating. I know that, you know, Carter is working the case. As far as he has told people, there was an email recently that was leaked or shown, whatever we want to say, but that he said that he is working on the case every single day. It's the only case that he works. And again, this is not to disparage them, but they really need to pull their head out of their asses, right? And figure out that there's a lot of stuff online that there are illegal activities online that people are doing to people, like doxing, going real life, sending people to people's houses, scaring the crap out of their children, showing up at people's houses. I mean, the list goes on, and it happens every day. And then people get up here and you guys send them money to help with that cause. And I'm not saying everybody in the chat, but what I'm saying is that I see a lot of people that are okay with this. And when it's even being talked about, it's like super sticker, here, let's help, here, I'll give you some money to help out. It's very wrong, right? I mean, it's one thing to give it a view, but it's another thing to super chat, you know? Hey, VW Holla Girl, good to see you. Hey, Couponing, thank you for being here. Hey, Tina Girl. Michelle says it's a conflict of interest and really should be in the hands of an unbiased law enforcement agency. I agree, especially because I see now that I think there has been too much involvement with Chris and Katie directly with the law entities that are handling the case, in my opinion, especially when we hear Chris say that these things need to be segregated, because he segregated us all online, right? Because it's been alleged that Chris has been very, very busy on the YouTube streets, and that he likes to go around and write scripts for other people to read. And then, you know, they go by it and, you know, they get a lot of money for doing it. And, you know, there's a lot of things being alleged right now about Chris and his online activities. So I think it would behoove law enforcement to really check that out. And maybe they need to know that Chris is actually hiding behind them and doing all of this nasty shit online, even though the law enforcement probably doesn't even know about it, because last time I checked, they don't even like watching any of the stuff that goes on online. So Chris can just come on here and act a fool as much as he wants and threaten as many people as he wants and tell them that he's going to go after their children. And law enforcement is none the wiser. And that's a problem, because when there's crimes being committed, law enforcement needs to know about it, and law enforcement needs to be aware and take action. And when we see all of these little games being played here and there, it's not a game anymore when it's real life. It's different if it's manufactured content. But when we're dealing with this ridiculous crap where there's little children that are afraid for a door knock, that shit ain't right. Where the hell were you raised at? Okay, guys, I'm going to take a break for a clip. And tonight is going to be, you know, this way. Hey, Blessed. All right, let's go ahead and put this here, right here.
So first, just express, I can't even imagine as a parent what you two are going through. How would you describe the situation right now? How are you coping?
We're on a constant roller coaster ride of helpless and hopeless and many other emotions all in one, and it's a never-ending roller coaster. It doesn't stop. It won't stop until he walks through the door.
I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Not anyone.
I know we're about keeping hope alive. I'm sure that's in there somewhere.
Oh yeah.
He's gonna
Always.
come home.
He's gonna walk through that door. And this street will be flooded again with family and relatives all waiting to hug and love him. And
That boy's gonna have more friends than he knows what to do with when he comes home.
So here we are. So it's an entire year after Sebastian's disappearance. There's no really strong lead. There's no sighting yet. So tell me what you're feeling now. Here we are 1 year later.
I struggle to put words to how it feels, honestly. The amount of ups and downs, the amount of like possible leads that haven't panned out. We every day, you know, it's like waking up to this reality that it's actually real. And I mean, Sebastian should be home with us. I mean, he should be in school, he should be playing, he should be learning, he should be experiencing life. And until we can find him and until we can bring him home, we're going to keep doing everything we can to make sure that people don't forget about him. We're going to keep making sure that we spread awareness for him, and we're going to keep searching, and we're definitely going to keep praying.
Here we are, 8 days now searching for him. Walk us through that Sunday night that he went missing. So walk us through, we've got so many people who really want to know, okay, how did this happen? So kind of just walk us through that night.
We were out and about that day. We were having a really good weekend. We got home. Everything was pretty normal. He was playing in his room. When I told him to go to bed, he did. He said, "Good night, Mom, I love you." Said goodnight to his puppies. A little bit later, I wound up going to bed, and when I woke him up for school, he wasn't there.
Told me you do want to stay positive. I know you both want to stay positive. That's all part of it. So in your mind, do you see Sebastian coming back through your front door? Do you feel he's okay, he's alive, he's out there?
I dream about it every day. I dream that one day I'm going to wake up and this is going to be a nightmare. But yes, I believe that my son is out there somewhere. I believe that we are going to find him. We are going to bring him home. And we're going to find a way to recover from this. And I'm going to watch him grow into a young man and, you know, live the life that he deserves to have.
February 25th, the day before Sebastian went missing, Chris was in Memphis at work. So Sebastian and I went to Texas Roadhouse. After dinner, right around 9 o'clock, I laid down. I heard a noise in his room. I said, "I don't care what you're doing, but you gotta knock it off and you gotta go to bed." And he answered, you know, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "Okay." And that was the last time that I spoke with Sebastian.
What would you say to him when he walked in that door?
Oh God, I don't even know if I'd be able to speak. I'd probably bulldoze him down with hugs.
Okay, so and just playing Katie's words, you know what I mean? Just playing Katie's words. So she's asked, how she's coping when Holly Thompson first interviews them in their home. And when I say them, I mean Chris and Katie Proudfoot. And Katie looks over at Chris and busts up laughing, right? We slow jammed it, right? So you could definitely see her in there, right? When you're about to laugh, but you stop yourself, right? Yeah, she did one of those. Okay, it's just human nature. So that's how she's coping. She laughs. And then they laugh through the whole thing. Like, the streets are going to be lined and he's going to have so many friends and all this bullshit. All right. So then they laugh through that first interview in that segment. When they're asked a year later, how does it feel a year later? Katie says she struggles to put words together a year later. And she does say this a couple of times in this interview. I want to kind of work some of that into tomorrow night's show. So just for those intents and purposes, but I wanted to show how she definitely says that throughout. Like, it's just very hard for her to describe her feelings and all of that. She said that she's going to continue to spread awareness about Sebastian, but she never does go and spread awareness online about Sebastian. Instead, her buffoon of a husband gets up on channel to channel to channel that is considered by more than just the general public, but even self-proclaimed trauma channels, right? And that's who he chooses to go on. And he talks about sex toys. He talks about, how he wants to threaten and hurt other people. They do not spread awareness about Sebastian, and they never really have. They've spread a lot of misinformation about damn near everything. They have lied constantly. I mean, I have tons of comparison videos that, are out there, and I know that there are a lot of other creators who have also made comparison videos showing the lies and showing 1 minute to the next what Katie and Chris have said. They continue to change their appearance, right? Every time we see them, they look different. And that is concerning. I mean, think about what Scott Peterson did before he was caught. He had his brother's ID, his hair dyed to look like his brother. It was very light when he had very dark features and dark hair, and he was headed down to Mexico. It is what it is. It's a pattern that we've seen in other cases. So no, you guys do not spread awareness. And if you think that's awareness being spread, you suck at it. So Katie says that she dreams about Sebastian coming home every night and that she'll wake up from this nightmare. But, I have to say that it just seems like Katie does not do anything to help her situation. She's not out there trying to find her son. And that has been something that they have defended from the start, right? People would ask them, why aren't you, handing out flyers at the very least? Even if you're not going to search, how come you're not handing out flyers? And they just simply have not done that. As a matter of fact, I have it under good authority that they have people that are taking them down. And now we see with the billboards, they have people who are ready and willing and it will admit that they are working to get the billboards taken down. So what makes a flyer any different? And let's see. I already went over that. Sorry. Katie also talks about finding a way to recover, right? And I find that to be very odd because I've never heard the mother of a missing child say something like that. Hey, Holly S. Hey, YouTuber. Welcome in, everyone. I've never heard the mother of a missing child say something like that. Like, we're going to recover from this. And, he's going to come home and everything is going to be great, right? I don't I don't really understand why Katie feels like this is an appropriate statement, because it's one of many that seems to distance herself from the situation and kind of say that, it's all going to go away someday. We're just going to wake up from this nightmare, and honestly, she really needs to wake up in general, because even in this year interview, she states that, um, basically that Sebastian is going to be found, but then she tells she tells the America's Most Wanted cast or crew or producers, whoever they talk to, right, that Katie was basically, that she thinks that there may have been some sort of an abduction. She doesn't particularly mention Sebastian leaving the house on his own, but she does in that first interview. She mentions to America's Most Wanted that he may have went with somebody or he may have been taken by somebody. So it's all of these different theories, which wouldn't necessarily be wrong, but I think after 14 months, a mother would have thought of, some sort of main theory, right, that she thinks happened. And when you're telling the news one thing and you're telling America's Most Wanted another thing, and you're just all over the place, it makes us think that you haven't given this much thought at all. Because if you had, you would have come up with some sort of solid theory, and maybe you could remember something from that night. Hey, Robin 407, thank you for being here. And that's the crazy part. Hey, Kelly OG. It's just crazy. Be careful, Loma Sharon, on your subway run. SCP Foundation says, how could you touch someone that made you choose your son or your man? Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. I agree. I feel like that's probably part of what happened here. I think that's a really strong possibility, especially because, how we have seen everything play out, and the fact that there was just not a whole lot of love in the relationship to begin with. It was more like ultimatums, and Tina Girl says Britt is very sweet and who's trying. Yeah. Oh yes, absolutely, exactly. I think it's absolutely crazy because it's everybody that helps Seth out. Tina Girl, and there were people that even were making up rumors about Seth, and trying to squash his alibi when, he clearly was at work. He clearly was on camera. And I even caught a screen grab of him answering that question very straightforwardly in another chat today, but those are the things that are coming out. Hey, Roxy R, even against the father of a missing child from someone who was supposedly supposed to be helping him on searches, and I do mean Terry Lynn, told everyone that Seth was in his truck sleeping for 2 hours, which is a bull-faced lie, and he just debunked it today and said, no, that never happened. Why would someone spread such an evil, vindictive lie on a father who is missing and looking for his child? Look at Katie's and Chris's faces, and then look at Seth's face. It's night and day. Any reasonable person could discern this. Any reasonable person. Hello, Alicia Hot Wheels. Good to see you. That would be nice of you, Anne. Anne says she has a nephew that's a cop. I'm just wondering why it's being allowed, Miss Anne, because I don't understand it one bit. Why these police officers are allowing for this and then covering and saying it wasn't happening, and I covered that back in April, on April 2nd, when the presser came out. I said, how come, it's being denied? Because United Cajun Navy said that they reported it to law enforcement, but law enforcement said that they didn't get a report on it. So what is it? Somebody's lying. Exactly. Doxing people, Loretto. And I don't know what's worse, like showing someone's house on the internet or saying that their alibi didn't pan out, saying that they're lying about their alibi, saying that their work friends were covering for them. Another person who was just helping find Sebastian, who was going on active searches looking for him. We forget. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, yep, and in Tennessee is big on the good old boy system. Unfortunately, there's an ugly saying used a lot around here. It's who you know and who you blow. That is used in Springfield, Missouri as well. It's the good old boys logo. It's their slogan, excuse me, not their logo. Thank you so much, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, because that's exactly what it is. If they don't know you or if you don't do something for them, you ain't worth a shit. And that's the truth. And forget it if you're an outsider, because you might as well just give up. It's really, they make it that horrible. It's absolutely so sad, Holly S. Yeah, see, Taylor, it's just, it's crazy. Hey, Butter Biscuit, good to see you. Seven True says they should all be ashamed of themselves. I mean, I'm ashamed for them. I'm like sitting here going, what is going on? But it happens all the time, in these little areas where people all know each other. They think they can run a game, and they don't try to control my town. This is my town. Well, guess what? Other people can live wherever they want. And, if somebody does wrong, I don't care how long you've known them. That doesn't matter. It's what's right, and that's it. Because it's funny how fast we forget when somebody pulls that rotten shit on somebody else, that the father of a missing child. It's really funny how fast we forget that, but then that rumor is still being spread on other channels where Seth has to defend himself. And when I saw that today, I just, it made me sick at my stomach. It's like I need to carry a barf bag around with me these days, especially if I'm going to go on the internet. Babs says, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom, the good old boy system is alive and well in employment as well. It really is. It really is. Babs, thank you for pointing that out, because that is the truth. Nepotism like you wouldn't believe. And Sumner County has been cited for just that. We did a video on it a while back, and I don't like to beat a dead horse, and I don't like to, go after someone relentlessly. I think, doing a show, mentioning it, talking about it as a topic is good enough for me. I don't need to harp on people or be evil or mean-spirited, because that's not even the intent behind it. The intent behind it is to show that this is happening and that it's not right and that something needs to be done about it. Because if nothing is done about it, someone's probably going to get hurt. And then it'll be everybody's shocked and, oh, I didn't want nothing to do with that. Well, you were part of it. So if people continue to be a part of it, then don't go back and backtrack and be like, oh, well, I don't know why that's going on. Because I see a lot of that. I see a lot of that pity me and feel bad for me, even though I've done that shit to other people. Terry Lynn, again, behind a lot of this shit. Stephen Crabtree, behind a lot of that shit. But the main person that's pulling the strings, in my opinion, is Chris Proudfoot and his dirty fucking people that he likes to associate with and who are in his family, in my opinion, allegedly, of course. Because he's done it to Nina. Because the coworker went on Jay is for Justice and shared what the Bauer Sox are all about and how they handle situations that they don't like. And then we see it playing out in the Sebastian Rogers case that they're directly involved in, because they're the step grandparents. My bad. Thank you, Alicia Hotwells. Thank you. I know it's hard, guys. I mean, I go over there and watch this stuff and repost it over here because I want to show that Seth didn't just get up there and act like a crazy person. But that's what they, that's what they like to twist it around and be like, oh, well, he just got up on some channel and did this. No, he did not do that. Actually, someone gave him a platform and a voice so that way he could say something about this disgusting crap. And then I had to go and hunt down, thank God for War Jam Eagle, because she clipped a perfect little spot that I could put in and show you guys what Seth is talking about, because he starts talking about where Chris is talking about SEX toys on the panel, and it's weird. So you have to show an example of it, otherwise it just makes Seth again look silly. And that's the goal. They want to embarrass, they want to humiliate, they want to discredit, they want to disrupt, they want to distract, they want to bully everyone and anyone. And they're going to do it because they know that Seth has a rock solid alibi. They know that Seth has passed his polygraph test. They know that Seth has always done the right thing. It was even mentioned in Deception Detective that Chris and Katie wear their regular clothes, and Seth wears "My child is missing" with the information on there, a picture of Sebastian. Because it's a manifestation in Deception Detective's words. It's a manifestation of what he's ultimately wanting and what his goal is, and that is to find his son. Not to play games, not to do these, not to sit here and ho 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 and look at Katie's dumbass face. Okay? Allegedly, in my opinion, because it's a whole ass train wreck. It's a whole ass train wreck, and it needs to stop. She's playing games. He's serious. He's pleading and begging for his son to come back, and Sebastian's still missing. It's not a game. It's not a game. And then you're going to hurt more children? In the meantime, oh, let's just go hurt some more kids in the name of a missing child. How does that even make sense? It's crazy. Yeah, Tina girl, ain't nobody got a packet. Nobody's got a packet. Now you're going to make me laugh. Stop. Trying to be serious tonight. But I mean, for real, like, who gets a packet? Like, what, I mean, God. The FBI needs to take this away from local LE. Amen. Amen. They're not doing anything. They're allowing for a lot of this nonsense. It's definitely a problem, Connie S. And YouTuber says, not surprised the protests against Sumner County Sheriff's Office corruption recently has barely been noticed, unfortunately. I didn't know if that one was, I know Meg came in and told us, YouTuber, act a fool. I always say that, act a fool. For real. And that's all. It's not spreading awareness. It's not spreading awareness, Nothing's funny, KK. Tina girl. I mean, seriously, she's laughing. She thinks it's funny. She's making all these funny faces. She's, and then here's Chris, green tea, and then she starts laughing. It's so awkward and weird. There's nothing good about it. And then we're all supposed to sit here and be like, oh yeah, they're good people. Yeah, we should support them. Yeah, we should support Katie. No, I don't think so. Not Chris or Katie. No, neither one. Neither one, after seeing that crap with America's Most Wanted. After seeing the crap that Chris pulled right before America's Most Wanted aired. It's not right. Butter Biscuit says Chris spends his time researching if a creator owes property taxes. He should use time finding Sebastian. Amen. Amen. If he has time to do that, he certainly has time to go out there and look. He certainly has time to go to Walmart and spread awareness. He certainly has time to even go into the community when there's anything like a farmer's market. That's where I put posters out and let people know about Sebastian. But we don't see it. We don't see it here. It's crazy. It's shaking his head no the whole time, Tina girl. You know? And I mean, he's looking at Katie like she's crazy in this one. I know you probably can't see it because my big head's in the way. But that's what's going down. I mean, it's like, what the heck? You know? Hey, Miss Sarah C. Good to see you. Aw, thank you. Aw, thank you, Miss Sarah C. Thank you. I really appreciate you being here. The way they laugh makes my stomach turn, Alicia says. You know? I mean, it's ridiculous. Flooded again, Babs. Flooded again when was it ever flooded with friends and relatives for Sebastian ever? They don't allow him to have friends. Mama Bowersox did not take him on vacation. He did not get to participate in the Disney vacation. So what the hell? What a bunch of lies. And he pretends because that's what Holly Thompson wants to hear. They tailor what they're saying based on who's interviewing them. Holly Thompson is a very, hopeful, helpful, person. And here she is, let's keep the hope alive. Let's do this. And, that's what Chris was trying to mirror. And Katie was mirroring the accent. I mean, please don't tell me that these journalists can't see right through that. Because I'm here to tell you that's exactly what they were doing. The streets will be lined again, absolutely. But when were they ever, like Bab said? They weren't. That's bullshit because you didn't let him have any friends. According to Bobby the neighbor, that nobody knew that there was even a kid living there. You couldn't tell. That's what she said. That's her statement, not my statement. I'm just repeating what she said. She was their neighbor. I was not. But get mad at me. What for what? For reporting on it? For getting up here and talking about it? Come on, it's a free country. Get over it. You don't like it, go someplace else. I don't know what to tell you. And Alicia says, no, Sebastian should be at home and with his dad, Seth, not with the monsters. Right. And I think that they are. I mean, what mother can get up there and act that way? I just don't get it. It's like watching someone who has completely lost their shit and you're watching them to get information to try to find their son who's missing, but she's up there acting the way she is. Distracting. Playing around, laughing, joking, only allowed to answer questions about what Sebastian likes to eat. Oh, and he'll eat the Brussels sprouts before I can cook them, right? And the face that she makes after that is like, grossed out. It's like they didn't want, hey, Meg, it's like they didn't want people to look at Sebastian in a good light, Well, who likes to eat raw Brussels sprouts? Nobody. So yeah, let's tell everybody that. And let's say disparaging things. When that post was on X that we went over, did Katie go over there and say anything about that post? Hey, Lori. Because I don't think she did. If she did, I would love someone to send it to my email and let me see her stick up for her son. Because that's what they were alleging was happening in her house with the belt and the pull-ups. Where were you at on that, Katie? Because I'll be damned if somebody is going to say that about my kid. Especially if they were missing. I mean, come on. It doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. But we're supposed to sit here and believe it and not talk about it when it doesn't make sense. We're supposed to shut up? I don't think so. Hey, Have Faith 365 says, my Tennessee accent lessons when I am not home in Murfreesboro. After being home for a time and around friends, it comes back. So I'm not going to dock her of having an accent or not. Well, I understand that. I get that too. Because I'll tell you, I had a very strong Chicago accent, right? I moved to Missouri for a few years, and I did pick up a little bit on an accent there, right? Because when I went home to Chicago, somebody said that I talk like I'm from Missouri. Okay, so I get it, right? That happens after time of living in different places. But I honestly have heard her go in and out of it so many times, depending on who she's talking to. If she was doing that accent to a person who, say, had, just as an example, a thick Chicago accent, but she was doing her country accent, I wouldn't think it was weird. But the minute that she started mirroring me, I would notice it and I would be like, well, where'd the Chicago thing come from, right? It's just showing that she does chameleon or mirror different people, and there are personality disorders that come into play there, because that is a trait of a personality disorder according to the DSM-5, right? I am not a doctor, but it's in there, right? That people who have that certain type of personality disorder act that way, and they mirror people so that way they can manipulate them. And that's all it is a manipulation tactic, in my opinion. Oh, I'm going to act like a Southern Belle when I'm talking with a Southern Belle. I'm acting like this with Holly Thompson. But the minute that she was on Nancy Grace, she switched over to that, regional diction. I mean, come on. It's just, it's what happens, and you can notice it person to person. Like I said, it's not like she's sticking true to her roots when she's sticking true to her roots like you are, because I do think that you are sticking true to your roots, have Faith 365. I do. Because like you said, it kind of changes a little bit when you get together with your friends, and then, of course that's going to happen. I think it was all scripted, Holly. Yes, I do. All scripted. All scripted. Hey, Deb's off 1729. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. And feel free to come out of the bushes anytime. Perfectly imperfect boy. I'm not usually this rambunctious, but tonight I am. I just seen a lot of fuckery today, and I've had it, and I can't hide it. I'm just like, how much more is this going to be? And then I couldn't believe I saw that Seth having to defend himself today. It blew my mind. I was like, really? So that person is still spreading this crap around when she already, tried to incriminate 2 innocent people, and, a third saying that Seth, didn't have an alibi, that he was sleeping in his car, which was not true, by the way. Completely false. Perfectly imperfect boy mom says, I don't find the laughing too strange myself. I'm a laughter when I get nervous. Oh, I'm a laugher, excuse me, when I get nervous. Perfectly imperfect boy mom says, I actually laughed as I watched my dad take his last breath, and it was pure nervousness. I was scared and heartbroken. Well, and I understand that too. I think there's a different type of laugh. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I think that a nervous laugh is a little bit different, right? You might be like, rather than like laughing or making fun of someone. Like whenever they were describing Sebastian not liking bugs, right? They were like laughing at him. And I've seen them do that so many times throughout this case, and then we hear his stepfather recently come out and use the R word and be like, yeah, I said it, and as if it's a part of his regular vocabulary, and I believe that it is. I wouldn't be easily convinced that it's not. I mean, because we've heard that from the neighbors that he's used that type of language towards Sebastian. He's used it again in the recent interview. And whenever he has been asked about using that word particularly, he played a little game and then he said the word outright. It shows a disdain for Sebastian and his disability, in my opinion, or as I like to say, his different abilities. Because I don't particularly look at Sebastian as if he's disabled. Total buffoon, blessed. Total buffoon, Hey, Brenda, good to see you. Brenda Austin says, I wish I would have time to go to each person's channel and take clips of everything CP has done and send it in. This guy is sickening, and so is KP for allowing it. And they take it down. They'll put it up there, you know, so that way they can embarrass and humiliate whoever they're intending on doing that to, or smear whoever they're looking to smear. And then they take it down so they won't get in trouble. So here's the thing. They know what they're doing is wrong, or they wouldn't have taken it down. You don't dirty delete. Why are you dirty deleting? If there's no reason for it, why are you doing that? You know, because I work hard on my content and I'm proud of what I put out here. You know, they're obviously not. You know, it just goes to show either you did something wrong and now you're embarrassed that you shouldn't have done it because you don't want to get in trouble, and so now you hurry up and take it down and try to gaslight everybody and make everybody feel like it never happened. You know, why not? Right? I mean, I work too hard on my content to do that. You won't catch my ass dirty deleting because I try not to be dirty. Tina says, tons of misinformation, and now Julie is a part of that. She's another one. She's another one that can't stop, you know, but say something about her and she'll get up there and cry and, you know, grift for, you know, sympathy grift, you know? Yeah. They spread awareness at Harley Davidson and Pigfest, in my opinion. YouTuber says, yeah. Hey, Ida, good to see you. Alicia Hot Wheels says they've hidden Sebastian before and after as much as she could have when they removed the magnets off the vehicles. That confirmed it for me, and that they didn't want him found. Amen, Alicia Hot Wheels. And we were shown that back in April by a channel called It's a Criming Shame, and she's a Canadian channel. It's a Criming Shame. And she showed the side-by-side, right? This is, you know, Chris and Katie's car here. This is Chris and Katie's car here. And then Seth got on panel and he said, you know, the Bowersox also took them off of their vehicles as well. Why? You know? So you expect me to believe that you hand out flyers, but you won't keep a magnetic flyer on your car. Yeah, right. And be mad at me for not buying it, right? Yeah, that's my fault. Please. You'll never make me believe it. Hey, Bubbly Beth, good to see you. Bless says, sorry, there's no waking up from the nightmare, or there's no waking up from the nightmare, in my opinion. There really isn't. Because even if Sebastian comes home tonight, right? Say they find him someplace, right? He's going to need a lot of help readjusting. You know, I just think of the story of Stevie Stainer. You know, he was taken by a pedo and he was kept for like 7 years, right? He was a little guy when he was taken. When he got older, the guy decided to grab another kid off the street and he rescued that kid, and he was, you know, found, right? But he turned himself in, right, with the little kid and said, this guy took me when I was little. My name is Stevie Stainer, blah, 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 right? And then they made a made-for-TV series on it and everything else. He ended up passing away in a drunk driving accident because he couldn't cope with all of the stuff that he went through and readjusting to life afterwards. That's the reality of these stories. So no, you're right. There is no recovering at this point. Thank you. That is such a good point. This isn't a game. It's reality. And it's been reality since February 26th, 2024, when Seth got the freaking text message saying Sebastian went missing, right? Don't be mad. Not, I don't know how to tell you this. It was, don't be mad, according to Seth. YouTuber says, Brenda Austin, if Ellie is doing their job, they won't be doing that, in my opinion. I agree. I agree. If law enforcement was doing their job and people are reporting it, right? Because that's the first thing we have to do. We have to report these things. We have to report them to YouTube when we see them. We have to report them to law enforcement if we're affected by it. It's just the right thing to do, and stay in the right, you know? Michelle Scott says that's total BS, liars in my opinion. Rogue says doesn't mean that both of them are sure that they will not get into any trouble. Well, and that's a strong possibility. You know, it's so hard to know what they're thinking because it's not rational or logical, right? It's just a whole heap of nonsense, you know? In my opinion, Tina Girl says, Lil Redo says, in my opinion, Tina Girl, she is going to get herself into trouble. Well, and you know, if they keep it up, they're all going to be in trouble, I would think, because they're doing illegal activities. You can't be doing that to people. You can't false report to law enforcement. I mean, where are they at? Debs off 1729 says, since CP tells the whole story of Sunday night till morning, why don't he ever mention KP telling Sebastian to go to bed after she heard the thud sound? Well, you know, she corrected him as well, Debs off, because, you know, she told him whenever she told him whenever they were talking to Heather PI, right? Heather Cohen on the phone call, that he had gotten the story wrong and that she said, I don't care what you're doing in there, knock it off and go to bed. But Chris had said something very similar to that story, how he would know, maybe because he was on the phone, but, you know, they say that the thud happened around 10 p.m. So, you know, it's very hard to tell. You know, and even the fact that he would want to talk about anything and not just be there rubbing her shoulder and be there for moral support, because if he wasn't there, then how can he recall any of the events? Even if you're on the phone with someone, unless you're on FaceTime with them or something like that, you know, I guess he could recall a thud. I don't know if it was loud enough for Chris to hear it over the phone. Again, maybe if they were on a FaceTime call. But again, it's something that Katie should have been recalling. You know, I will tell you this, as a mom, if my child was up even a half hour after they were supposed to go to bed, right? I would look at the clock the first thing, because I'd be thinking, what time is it? What's that? No, what are they doing in there? It's, you know, it's 10:30. I told them an hour ago to go to bed or whatever, you know, so you look at the clock immediately, right? So it should be on Katie to recall that detail. It's just on Katie. I mean, that's what a mom does, right? We're like, even if I'm talking to my boyfriend or my husband, right? You're like talking to him on the phone, right? Yeah, da, da, da. You hear the thud. You're like, oh, hey, I don't care what you're doing in there. Go to bed. Knock it off and go to bed. Yes, ma'am. Okay. And then, you know, but you look first to see what time it is, because you're like, I can't believe they're still stirring around in there, doing, you know, playing, messing around. She said, Katie has recalled that it's not uncommon for that to happen. Hey, Anna Marie, you know, she told Smiley Stories World on her podcast. She said, you know, it's not uncommon for me to hear Sebastian stirring around in his room. But when did he take his medication? Because he should have been, you know, pretty close to asleep about an hour after taking that, right? And Debsoff says, since CP said they were talking on the phone for 3 hours, right? Yeah, and I think that he said they got on the phone at about 9:30 to 9:40, right? And then they got off sometime around midnight. You know, she went to bed around midnight. And Lori says, I don't even like listening to those talk about him so bad. Well, and that's the thing. They're coming back around to this, where they're attacking Sebastian himself. They're attacking a missing child. You know, saying it was his fault that he was, you know, meant to wear this stuff at school. A belt. I mean, who does that? Who does that? It's just not right. There's nothing good. You know? And YouTuber says, yes, KP has tweaked the script again and made sure to mention Sebastian may have met up with someone or been taken by someone to try to explain away the flashlight video. You know, that is really a smart comment YouTuber, I can see how that would happen, right? I could see how they would tweak the story a little bit because they don't want the flashlights out. They just don't, right? But then they say that that Sebastian had a little flashlight with him. And that was something that the panel had referenced on America's Most Wanted, and again, it wasn't a flashlight that was that bright, so it's just like one of those things where it's just ridiculous. And SL says, I can see CP telling KK that she will never find someone who will accept Sebastian. That's how sociopaths work. I agree with that, SL, and I could definitely see him saying that as well, in my opinion. Trying to put Katie down and let her know, like, hey, I'm the only one that's going to put up with you guys, and I could definitely see that, especially all the issues that they were having, and the way that they were being talked to and everything, I Am Two Bear says Trudy Lynn's has always been questionable. I always thought this was a local person with a good heart, just looking for Sebastian, and I was sadly mistaken, and I was absolutely wrong. Absolutely 100%, unequivocally wrong. Wrong. Lady Freedom, big sign, wrong. It is what it is. Manipulators are going to manipulate. Really terrible now, Holly S. Really terrible. And you find out, if you go onto Reddit and different things like that, you'll find out. You'll find out who she really is. She is a drama queen that inserted herself into Sebastian's case so she could get information and turn around and use it against Sebastian, Seth, and anyone helping find Sebastian. And that is my opinion. And Holly S. says, Red, she went after everyone. I assume just saying, I wish she'd go away. Yeah. Oh, that one too. And don't think Terry Lynn's not going after people. She just keeps it behind the scenes, She has a lot of people to do her dirty work for her. Alicia Hot Wheels says, Ellie screwed up in the beginning. Okay, but they're not getting paid that much to keep covering this. Other Ellie has screwed cases up worse than Sumner County, so what's the real deal? Well, and that's a really good question, Alicia Hot Wheels, and I can understand where you're coming from, definitely there. I mean, I think that they dropped the ball in the beginning. Again, I think there was unconscious bias. I think that, knowing that they were military, that also is another thing that shows some brotherhood. Also, the good old boy system comes into play. A lot of what we have seen in this case and what Chris and his stepfather, Terry, love to brag about is their connection to law enforcement, right? And Chris has bragged about it several times in this case. Whether or not I believe him, it makes me wonder with all of the fuckery that's allowed to ensue on a daily basis surrounding Sebastian's case. Because when there's illegal activities going on within a missing child's case, I would think that they would take that seriously, but they're not. It's very clear. And it's good to see you, Sasha Johnson. Sasha says, that's why I'm glad I got the sheriff behind the balls here. Sasha, that's hilarious. Make sure you say in my opinion. Make sure you say in my opinion, Sasha. I mean, do your own research, guys. Do your own research, Michelle Scott says, well, Lady KP is coming alive. Makes me sick, in my opinion. Well, I mean, there's so many things, that are so frustrating within her statements, that we see. The little one's a KK. Well, I mean, Holly, I had to make us laugh somehow, and I am a laugher, perfectly imperfect boy mom. I am a nervous laugher too, but I just know that, like, in that situation, I'm not. Like, you know, and I do try to make other people laugh when they're sad, you know, and I do like to have somebody else make me laugh if I'm sad, you know, so I do understand that. Um, but I don't know. It's too much. It's just odd behavior. Tina Girl says if she would really listen to what Britt was saying, she trying to warn her what the dark side was doing. Well, and you know, you can only warn people, and that's it. That's all you can do is warn them and be like, hey, I had a negative experience. This is what they did to me. But don't be mistaken. You know, that's such a good point. Don't be mistaken. If they're willing to do it to one person, they'll turn on you and do it to you too. You know, that's why it's not good to like fuel these people that are evil and doing these awful things to one another, because you might be participating in it now and you might be doing it to someone else, but don't think for 1 minute that it can't ever just be turned around as quickly on you as it is, you know, happening to somebody else, you know? So, you know, anybody that's still in that community that thinks that, you know, she's going to turn around or do anything good with herself, I wouldn't hold my breath, you know, because, and I wouldn't trust it not to turn around, you know, and happen to me. You know, there's a reason why that person plasters her phone number, one of her phones, all over the internet so she can get your personal information. Trust. Nisi Marie says, I used to respect Terry Lynn at the beginning, looking for Sebastian and putting up flyers, but now I'm concerned how she turns the tables and saying she's been threatened as well. Sebastian is paying the price again. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, she was not being threatened, in my opinion. She was being called out for the dirt that she's been doing behind the scenes and trying to, in my opinion, impede the investigation. Let's not forget about the pants that Terry Lynn may or may not have planted. There's a lot of dirty stuff that she has done in this. And then recently she tried to blame it on Seth. So she does all of this nasty stuff and she blames it on other people. Make no mistake about it. So anybody close to her, I feel sorry for them. And if you ever got close to her, I feel sorry for you. I know how it feels. She is a backstabber and she has done nothing for Sebastian's case besides cause trouble, plant evidence, and make it all about herself, in my opinion. Alicia Hot Wheels says, then again, we do not expect from a sheriff that calls, the R a snuggle. Well, and you know, I tried to overlook that, you know, I did talk about it, you know, and I felt like I, you know, said my piece and everything else like that. I've tried to, you know, support people who are trying to find Sebastian. I really am, even law enforcement. But it's kind of hard when you see all of this stuff going on and them doing nothing about it, like allowing for a stepfather of a missing child to say the evil and awful things that he said about a female creator, threaten her children. It's absolutely wrong. He admitted to calling someone's parole officer who was simply trying to help find Sebastian. What? Very vindictive behavior. And that's a narcissist for you. You've only been there for a year, Sasha? Lori says it's too bad that the court decides like that because it's really a big issue. Well, it is. It is. And you have to, you know, there's a process. Hey, Cece. Hey, Ginger Girl. You know, there's a process that you have to follow, and it is annoying and it is long, but you know, there's a good outcome, you know? I think so, Ginger Girl's mom. I do. And that's why I brought that up, you know, because when you don't grow up around those people and it is about who you know and who you know, that could very well be. And I did think that early on too, when I was wondering what was going on in the beginning of all of this, I thought about it again in the middle of all of this. And now here we are again revisiting it, because there's been a lot of weird stuff that's been said and done. And, it's just not right. Yeah, zero self-awareness. Zero self-awareness, Holly S., Hey, Karen Powers, good to see you. Yeah, I'm trying, Karen. Thank you so much for being here. It's just, it's like, it's just crazy. I can't believe it. It's like every time you turn around something, a distraction. Uvalde too, Lori, thank you. And I still have the screenshots for those. I could drudge them up somewhere and put them on tomorrow. But yeah, the Uvalde Foundation and United Cajun Navy, right? But Craddock says no, there were no threats. What? Yeah, Seth being an outsider could explain a lot, in my opinion. Right. Why do you think Chris likes to go back there? Why do you think Chris has taken both Katie and Nina there? Right? Because he knows he has control there. It's funny when you take a good old boy out of his society. It's funny when you take the good old boy out of the system that he's used to getting away with shit in, and you put him someplace else. He doesn't like it very much. No, he likes being in the system where it's okay to be corrupt and mommy can get you out of it, or someone can be paid to do something that you don't want to do so you don't get in trouble and you're not involved in it. But they go on and do it for you. And why anybody would, compromise their integrity or their morals or their values that they were raised with to participate in this fuckery is beyond me. Because, I'd like to think that most of us were raised not to be doing this stuff. And most of us were raised that this is wrong. And you just don't do that to other people. When you see something, say something. Isn't that the whole, true crime genre slogan, right? See something, say something. That we can combat the good old boy system with that mantra. See something, say something. It's who you know and who you blow. Well, if you see something and you say something, you see something that's not right, tell somebody, because something's wrong. I Am Two Bear says Crabtree's mom is best friends with CB. That's why. Oh, that's why. Sorry, I'm Two Bear. I probably am reading that wrong. But yes, I mean, and that's the thing. There's many different connections in there, right? Terry Lynn and Crabtree are best buds. They have been for a long time. Habitual violators, Cinderella. I agree. Roxy R says TL was in the drama community a few years back and then they ran her off. Not sure what happened. She brought a lot of people to the true crime genre when she decided to take advantage of Sebastian's case, in my opinion. Roxy, I did the research and I know exactly which one she's, coming from. That's why I said hashtag fuck Staples. They know what that means. Thank you, hindsight 2002. And I know a lot of you know what I'm talking about. Like, I know a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about, even if I don't say anybody in particular or whatever, but I think certain people need to be highlighted tonight because, they like to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes and think that nobody's ever going to call them out on their bullshit. I'm not afraid. Especially when it's a missing child's case and you like to play games and think it's fun. I'm going to go switch sides and see what I can get over here for subscribers. No, that's not what it's about. And don't you dare say you're for Sebastian. Don't even dare. Because it's a lie. In my opinion. Yeah, Ginger Girl's mom says the smear job on an innocent man searching for his son is bizarre and disturbing, in my opinion. Absolutely well said, Ginger Girl's mom. Absolutely. Absolutely not a game. You know, and it's sick. It's really sick. Jen, good to see you. Jen says it's sickening to watch the police act like, uh, oh, excuse me, act with deliberate indifference to this case. Time to call in the FBI and stop playing games with this poor Sebastian. Yeah, because he doesn't deserve it. He's not being represented very well at all. You know, you got to pack it perfectly, a perfect boy, mom. Oh man. And Mark Klein says, seems like most are for one side or for the other. Could it be both sides could have done better for this boy? You know, I agree with that, Mark. I do. I agree with that. I think we could have done better from the very beginning, right? I think if Chris came on saying stupid things, we should have never listened to him, right? I should have never replayed him doing it. You know, even if I was making fun of him doing it, I shouldn't have given him any type of wind for the sails, right? Because in doing that, we've all created a monster who thinks that he is capable of breaking the internet. And then you have complete fucking morons out there telling him, oh, you just broke my internet. Good job. Good job, buddy. You just broke my internet. Fucking idiots. Lil Redo says, and guess what? Even if there will be a documentary later, who cares? We should do everything we can get to have it. Well, I do documentaries every day on Sebastian, you know, pretty much. I do comparison videos. I tell my commentary. I give examples, you know, I show examples visually. I try to put it together. So, you know, I'm not even worried about a potential, you know, I think that's very normal nowadays to have a documentary. I mean, you know, it gets the person's name out there. It gets their story out there. Depending on who it's told by, you know, I mean, like Mark said, you're going to have different viewpoints, right? You're going to, if somebody decides that they are, you know, supportive of the Proud Feet, well, then they're going to probably have a different perspective on a documentary than, say, I would have, right? Because I think Chris and Katie are guilty of doing something to Sebastian. Now, does that change the fact that they are innocent until proven guilty? No, it doesn't change that. It doesn't matter what my opinion is. Really, at the end of the day, it's up to law enforcement to make the arrest. It's up to a jury to convict, and it's up to a judge, possibly the jury, to do sentencing. You know, I'm not the judge, jury, and executioner here. I'm just, you know, a lady with a microphone and an opinion. But where it gets out of hand is when people are trying to harm people for telling their own opinions, you know, and to speculate. It's a major problem when people want to silence those who are just trying to spread awareness about Sebastian. It's, you know, absolutely crazy. Hey, SI officer, good to see you. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Anne, for doing that. Anne says, I go into my Walmart and talk about Sebastian Rogers all the time. Thank you, Anne, for doing that. And that's important, you know. I know you had asked me for an updated billboard, or not billboard, flyer the other day. So I know you do talk about him. Jen says that's why it's called Corruption County. I mean, you know, I'm trying really hard, you know, not to do that. Kiki 2025 True Crime says, I sure would be laughing. And I wouldn't be either. You know, there may be a time if I was reminiscing that I would smile or, you know, something like that. But even then, I don't know if I could stop crying, you know, or just being in a very hyper vigilant state, wondering where my child is. I'd be on high alert, you know, especially if I, you know, said goodnight to my child. An hour later, I heard something, but I didn't go check. And then next thing I know, I can't find him in the morning. Thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate you. And Miss Kim 77 says, thank goodness, another good channel. Oh, thanks, Miss Kim. Thank you. You know, and I'm usually not this feisty. I mean, I'm a feisty one, but, you know, I'm usually not this feisty. But, you know, there's just so much stuff going on, and it's just like, it's crazy. And I can't condone it. And I can't keep quiet about it, you know, and I won't. And Bab says, Sebastian's birthday and Christmas wish in 2023 was to have friends, per Chris. So sad. And Katie said that too, like right off the bat to Duchess, you know. You know, what about his friends, Duchess says. And she says he wants friends. Well, how come you don't get him some friends? At least try, you know, at least try to introduce him to kids with similar, you know, likes and, you know, I mean, Seth had him playing Magic, the Gathering, and D&D. So those are games that are strategy games that are played in a group. I mean, you know, I'm sure he had friends in that setting. I know it's getting ridiculous with nothing happening. It is, SI officer, and I share your frustration. You know, I do, especially when I go back and I listen to this interview and I hear Chris say that things need to be segregated and only call one person. You know, I mean, and then laughably he tells us to call 911. It's like, where were you at on that? You know. Thank you, Sasha. Thank you. Sammy says, and when he went outside, he allegedly got sprayed by water and told to go back inside R. Yes. Or I also heard a situation where the neighbors allege that Chris said, come get your R. Talking about Sebastian. Like, that doesn't even fit. It's absolutely mean-spirited behavior that you would expect from a child, not a grown man. Hey, Kai, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom says, some people laugh when they are nervous or scared, and I wouldn't say that necessarily the case with KP. I'm one of those who laughs when I'm nervous, scared, or not sure what to say or do. Yeah, like an awkward laugh, you know, or nervous laugh. I totally get you, Perfectly Imperfect Boy Mom. I do. We all handle trauma and awkward situations differently, you know. We're not always going to handle it the same, you know. Some people might be hysterically crying. Some people might be, you know, to the point of like hyperventilating. Other people are going to handle it calmly, and you know, you might see a couple of tears. Yeah, it's always going to be different, you know. Steals my Brussels sprouts. I know. And those are the things that we hear about food that make me so crazy too. Like, you know, stealing Brussels sprouts, rummaging for snacks, you know, eats like a, you know, bottomless pit coming from Chris Proudfoot, you know. Connie S says, hate to, but I'm going to get some sleep. Good night, Connie S. I know I'm behind in chat. Good night. Thank you for being here. That's the understatement of the century, Jen. Nisi Marie says, Brussels sprouts. Blah. I don't like them cooked. Them every which way. Still can't stand the taste. Too bitter to me. Yeah, you know, Nisi, I love Brussels sprouts. Like, I'm a big fan of Brussels sprouts. Yeah, Go Cubs is right, Mark. How'd you know? That's funny. I'm a total Cubs fan. But yeah, I mean, I honestly think that the part of uncooked and then steal my Brussels sprouts and stuff, I think it almost puts Sebastian in a bad light, right? Because I don't know, it just seems like they're always trying to make him seem like a weird person, right? He's not normal, you know, and in my opinion, that's what I get from it, you know. Good night, Babs. Good to have you here. YouTuber says perfectly imperfect boy mom. In my opinion, KP's giggling is partly because she is high and partly her inability to hide her duper's delight and relief that Sebastian is gone. I think the duper's delight is strong in these two. I do, YouTuber. And, I wonder about Katie being on like some sort of a sedative, which I'm not going to even fault her for, because I'm sure she's very nervous and everything. I get it. Right. But I think that does have partly maybe to do with the laughing, that's a good point, um, Sammy says, when she was talking to Duchess on the first episode, her twang was the strongest. And I truly believe that because Duchess is from South Carolina and has a strong twang. That's a really good point, Sammy. I forgot about that. So she was mirroring Duchess as well, right? I mean, seems that way. That was two, people that she talked to that had Southern accents already, that she talked in a Southern accent to. And then, so it would be more authentic if she was keeping her Southern accent when no one else had it, is just, yeah. Deb says on the dispatch call, who's supposed to be back around midnight, or that's what it sounded like to me. I think they were saying sometime around midnight because, Chris was telling everybody that, and so was Katie, that the last time they, saw her, or excuse me, the last time they saw Sebastian was around midnight, but then they changed it to Katie going to bed around midnight. So that was really weird. Thank you for thank you, Bless, for your super chat. Bless says, in a fair world, autism issues would have catapulted to the forefront in this case, but it's not a fair world, in my opinion. So we pray. Well, and I agree with that. I think it would have catapulted the case in a more understanding, compassionate world, But unfortunately, sometimes when people hear about others who have different abilities, they don't fully understand, and so they do think of negative connotations like the R word and things like that. And we even had Sebastian's mother and stepfather coming out and saying things like, quote, Sebastian likes to defecate and urinate in his pants, unquote, right? He likes to do that kind of stuff. Katie said that he smells bad because he doesn't use enough deodorant. That's painting him in a very negative light, right? I mean, it's just like if somebody, says, hey, that person stinks, they don't smell good. Nobody's going to want to go by that person, right? And instead of respecting Sebastian and respecting his privacy, that's what we're told about him by his stepfather. I'm going to tell you, I would not be sitting next to that man ever again if somebody ever talked about my child like that. I don't care if it was the truth or not. You wouldn't catch my butt sitting next to him. Thanks, Jen, for your super sticker. Thank you. Or super chat. Sorry, I always get them mixed. Jen says, we will find Sebastian in spite of CP and KP spewing their lives. Sebastian, Wayne, Drake, Rogers. Thank you, Jen. Thank you. I believe that too. I do believe that. I believe Sebastian's going to be found. I just really would like for, in the meantime, for all of this crap, crazy crap to stop. So thank you so much. And I appreciate you, spreading that message, because I think we do need to keep the faith. And we do need to remember that one of these days, Sebastian is going to, he's going to materialize, right? Whether it's the best case scenario or the worst case scenario. But either way, he's going to be found, because we remain. We don't poof vanish. We just don't. Alicia Hot Wheels, thank you for being a member for 1 month. She says, I have a biopsy in the AM. Got to go to bed. Oh, Alicia, thank you so much for being a member. And we're going to say prayers for you. That's never fun. It's never fun. So I hope it all goes well, and let us know. Keep us posted. And GA64 says, I hope America's Most Wanted continues to investigate this case. I really hope so too, GA64. Now, I don't know if there's going to be another, segment on Sebastian. I hope there is. I hope one day, John Walsh might take a look and see, deep dive into the case and find out kind of what's going on here. Absolutely. Thank you for your comment. And Jen says it's called deliberate indifference to a crime that had been committed, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely, Jen. I agree. Well said. Well said. Yeah, that's my understanding too, Loretto. It's my understanding America's Most Wanted will not air another show on Sebastian, which is disappointing. I agree, because the first one was so short, But that's my understanding as well. And Roxy R says, according to JS, a documentary is being made on Tony with Seth. I have creators that are going to be in it, and said Tony and Seth will pocket a lot of money. Oh, good Lord. See, I mean, I'll tell you, if there's not a documentary on Sebastian, I think there needs to be one. I mean, I really do. I don't see any problem in it. I don't understand why people get so jealous of somebody making money anyway. What's the big deal? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Meow. Thank you. Aw. There was, I think on Josh's channel, Tony and Seth talked about that crazy lady that was filming and she was asked not to. I'm not sure how it all went because I haven't had a chance to look at it. I don't know. I don't know, Debs. That's a good question though. AM2 Beer says, I missed what? One day off the tube can set you back days. That's the truth. Oh my goodness, that's the truth. Oh, couponing. I did get a little chance to see Lolly's show. Yeah, I did see that. I did. I didn't know that guy had a school. And I'm sorry if somebody told me that and I missed it, or if you guys said that in chat and I didn't see it. That was interesting to me, right? Especially because there was that Mormon connection, and we've talked about that documentary, the program, right? Where these kids were sent to this school and they're super secretive, and it's all through, the Mormons and LDS and all that. Many of them are associated with that. Hey, One Mad Gina, thanks for being here. Kim, thank you for being here. I listened to the song that Chris sang on Smiley's. It was disgusting. Has everybody listened to it today on Smiley? Oh, good, Kim. That was the one that he sang, the My Dingaling by Chuck Berry? He sang that on Queen Bee's. Yes, ma'am. I'm glad someone else is talking about it. I guess Pig Fest is like a big, like a barbecue fest, Jen. Like where, and I guess it's down in Florida. A Got Change says they got fears and removed them. Right. Yeah. And that's telling us that they know what they did was wrong, that shows guilt, in my opinion. They know right from wrong. They know what's going to get them in trouble and what's not. They just push the envelope, I Am Two Bear says she took the magnets off the car before they left for the campground, if not sooner. Nancy Drew took pictures of them. There equals no magnets on the car. Yes, I Am Two Bear. I agree. Yeah, a lot of very important videos from the past have been removed off platforms, I believe possibly for case even comments. Well, I think so too, SI officer, and I think it's, called dirty delete for a reason. Hey, Susan Hunter. Hey, Carla S. Good to see you. Sorry, Carla H. Good to see you. Oh, crud. I just dropped that link. Sorry, guys. I try not to. Hey, Buddy H. In my opinion, the look on Sebastian's face says he's pissed, and that is why KP and CP are making all the threats. I agree. That could definitely be one of the reasons behind it. I just don't think they want us talking anymore, you know? One Mad Gina says Steven Stainer lived 100 miles from us. Yeah. Yeah, he did escape. He escaped with that little boy that they were going to take. I believe his name was like Timmy White, I think. But yep. Yeah, he rescued the little boy, you know, to save the other little boy. Yeah, Gina. Yeah. He has problems adjusting, but then he was hit by a drunk driver. Yeah, drunk driving accident. Yep, and he wasn't drunk. His brother Carrie killed 4 or 5 women in Yosemite. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I should thank you for clarifying that, Gina. But Stevie was a heavy drinker. He was because of his trauma, but he was not the driver who. He was hit by a drunk driver. He wasn't the one who initiated it, I guess you could say. Thank you for clarifying that, because I don't think I did earlier when I was telling it. So thank you. But you're right. Carrie Stainer, his brother turned out to be a serial killer because he was jealous of all of the attention that Stevie got, right? Because Stevie was in his own made-for-TV movie. He played the cop that rescued, you know, or he played the cop that brought them home after he rescued the little boy, right? Really interesting case. They just interviewed his mother on I think it was, and you might correct me, a Netflix documentary where she talks about her sons, you know, and she even talks a little bit about Carrie, and they go into what happened with Carrie. He was a loner and used to go up in the, you know, hang out a lot over there and do bad things. Cinderella says, I think a specific person in LE knows just my opinion. You know, you could possibly be right. I don't see how they don't know. And I don't see how they don't care and they're not doing anything about it. You know, it just drives me nuts, Cinderella. And I think, you know, you could be right, you know? Well, yeah, that's true, Little Reddo. They could just be the worker bees just kind of taking the tips, you know? Um, what an interesting job that would be. I Got Change says if the locks were internet wasn't there were the way the search if they were in the billing letter. The locks were internet wasn't the way search. I'm sorry, I Got Change. I might be reading that wrong. Carla says I've been working in the kitchen. I must have missed something big. We're just going over these. Hey, Robini, we're just going over these. Oh, hey, bud. He's coughing. Hold on one second, guys. All right. I always try to get him to force him to go over and get water. Hey, Meg. But he doesn't like to even get water. He's just laying there. He's like, I'm tired and I don't want to get up. No trash talking lies about a trash truck. Sasha. Alicia Hot Wheels says, but didn't Katie say she let him stay up later? So why was she mad? He wasn't in bed at 9 to 10. What an ungodly early hour is normal for them if 9 p.m. was staying up late. Right. Well, they did say, Alicia Hot Wheels, that, you know, he usually goes to bed around, you know, like 7:30 or 8. And so she did let him stay up late till 9 o'clock that day. But that is very early, in my opinion, too. Like, I can see winding down at like 8 or something like that. Hey, Blind Talon. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. So I can totally see that. But Rob Beanie says, I think she said 7 was his normal bedtime. Yeah, it was really early, wasn't it, Rob Beanie? I was thinking it was like 7 to 7:30. I mean, like, I could see that's when you're like taking your, meds, or, you got to be out of the bath by that time because we're going to wind down, or shower. Um, yeah, hey, bad actors. Bad actors, it says TL was obvious to me. Look at me, personality. Well, and that's, it's tough because I think a lot of people saw right through it, but then a lot of people got duped into it, or people that knew her from the other community, was a big part of her subscriber base. So a lot of those people condone that behavior, and they think it's funny, and they like watching it, and they they enjoy it. That's part of what they like to do. That's part of their life, is going real life. Annette, that's funny. Good to see you, Annette. Oh. Yeah, Streets of Heaven, they're thinking of. Oh my goodness, Sammy, and just looking up like she does. Sasha says maybe they're not together, maybe they're related. I don't know. You never know. No, I haven't seen anybody go in live. She's been panel hopping from Queen Bee, like just panel hopping with Queen Bee, is what I have seen lately. Alicia Hot Wheels says, I think TL is just a tweaker soccer mom that's getting paid for turmoil. I agree. Yep. That's my opinion too. You can't be that young and look that old. There's a reason. And act that way and be up for days. And, there's a whole lot of stuff, in my opinion, allegedly. SI officer says some of this has gotten odd. I wondered if certain people have gotten close to getting answers. I think they have. And I think that's one of the main things, right? And if you have an alibi, we're going to attack you for it, right? We're going to try to discredit it. We're going to try to debunk it. We're going to try to smear you. Absolutely, SI officer. And it's because they don't want the truth out. And they know people that are willing to tell the truth, and that are willing to stand up and go against the grain are the ones that they want to go after, in my opinion. Carla H says, remember that guy that worked with Terry B said a captain police officer came to the company. They worked 3 times a week and sat with Terry at the office, laughing and shooting the breeze. Yes, I do remember that. And that guy's name was allegedly Matt, and he was a former co-worker of Terry Flying Monkey Socks. He had a police captain friend that would frequent the office 3 times a week and would sit with Terry allegedly and, chill with him. They just hang out and shoot the shit. Why not? And then he would brag about how he would, have an inside, connection with law enforcement, that he can do whatever he wants, Hey, Ann Brock, good to see you. Susan Hunter says, unfortunately, Roxy R, she has gone on with CP and KP side. Yeah. And I'm not convinced she wasn't over there the whole entire time and just pretending. She's a good liar. She's a good manipulator. Thanks, Kim. Thank you. Oh, Magnell says YouTuber. She was on Whiskey's panel today, I believe. We'll see if the Canadians can handle her. I will say they were tearing her up in Queen Bee's, though, because they were tired of, her saying she had all this information, and then she just gives a bunch of bunk text messages, The only one I saw maybe a little bit of value in is the one that said that KP and CP allegedly have ties, and so do the Bauer Sox, to the Mormons, right? Because like Lolly Beautifully Broken said today, that the Texas Roadhouse guy, right, known as Yellow Jacket to us, because that's what we can perceive that he's wearing, is a guy named Richard Bishop. And he allegedly has a school for children with disabilities, but it's more of like an institution. And it's kind of a scary place where kids have been hurt, you know, and that sort of thing. So very interesting. But this is the still that I got from Dog the Bounty Hunter's video. And it appears that there is a picture of Sebastian on the guy's phone. And you might have to zoom in to see it. But I have a whole video where you could actually go and look at it kind of take shape, right? But then we also went over this. And this is, you know, what's in the reflection. And in my opinion, the reflection resembles Sebastian, right? What we can see in the reflection of this guy's glasses. So really interesting, you know, and I always think that there's something going on with that yellow jacket guy. Hey, Adam Forever 21, good to see you. Adam Forever 21 says, yep, local LE is not doing enough, in my opinion, needs to be out of their hands. I agree. I think that's, you know, what really needs to happen, you know, because there's just, there's too much direct involvement, in my opinion, you know. Bless says, Carrie, even if he wanted to, I'm not sure LE would try and convince him not to in lieu of their case, in my opinion. Thanks, Blessed. Little Redo says, see, I'm not sure on that, Lady Freedom. Hey, Show Poodles, good to see you. Yeah, that's true. Hindsight 2002, I believe that. They are our children too. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. Let me try to get him some water. I'm going to put this next clip on for us. No, buddy. Are you coughing?
Time. When do you normally wake up? Around 6 o'clock? So were you instantly thinking something's wrong, or were you like, he may just be already in the shower?
I took a
in the living room?
I took a second and walked through the house looking for him in case he'd gotten up and was trying to get breakfast or something, because he did that sometimes. About 3 minutes in, give or take, I was on the phone with my husband and I said, I can't find him. He said, what do you mean you can't find him? I said, he's not in the house.
The next morning, when I went in his room, he wasn't in his bed. After a minute or two, when I couldn't find him, I called Chris and I said, I can't find Sebastian. He's not in the house.
I got off work and I had a text message from Sebastian's stepfather. I said, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian is missing. I said, hey, I don't know how to tell you this, but Sebastian is missing. I headed straight over to their house.
And so at that point, is that when you call 911, or what's going through your mind?
While we were on the phone, and I was like, is he on the other side of the bed? The normal places he may be in the house, you know, and he wasn't. So I was like, okay, well, hold on a minute. And immediately after that, we called the sheriff's department and made the report.
I ran all over the house, outside, inside. I looked in every closet.
Within minutes, they were here. They responded within minutes, and here we go.
I started driving through the neighborhood. I was panicking. I was looking everywhere, like, where is he? What happened? Did he go with someone? Did someone take him? By the time I pulled into the school, Christopher was already telling me to turn around because the authorities were on their way.
So you said you were on the phone with her, so
Yes,
you were not home?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I was at work. I'm a tower crane operator, and I was working in Memphis at the St. Jude Project. So it's, you know, I have an earpiece in that talks to my phone. I have another earpiece in that does the radios. So when she was talking to me, it was like, what? I was confused. We talked about where he could possibly be, and then we went from there and led to calling the cops and here we are now.
And within minutes, they're there at the home.
Yes, ma'am.
It was rapid fire. They had cars.
They
They had
lined
cars from here down to
the main
road, as far as I could tell.
So what's going through both of your minds? I mean, are we panicking? Is it this, oh, I think he's probably at a neighbor's house, or what are you thinking?
My son doesn't run. He's not a runner. He's never run away before. I don't know why. I don't know why he walked out that door.
I mean, he's a good kid. He's not a mischievous child by any means.
Have nothing. We just have speculations. We get criticized. The father gets criticized. Law enforcement's been criticized.
But there's answers to questions that have no answers, or questions with no answers right now that we are searching for desperately, and we just don't have that.
Marks 1 year since Sebastian Rogers disappeared near Beach High School in Sumner County.
My life is not the same without my son. He's not here, and he's somewhere. Someone has him.
Okay, guys, I just wanted to slow jam this part right here so we can see everything. They look very jovial, in my opinion, like they don't have a care in the world. They even are kind of smirking slightly as he's rolling the car or whatever that is. Maybe it's a little tractor down the lane, right? And we see Chris and Katie doing this, as if, I just don't even understand what it's all about. They have a box behind them that you can clearly see they took everything out of.
Nightmare I could have imagined come alive.
Just wants whoever has him. Just give him back. It's my son.
Wow, my dad. You can feel it.
Right, yeah, and we can't feel it from the other parents because they're over there playing with toys, and they're all conveniently toys that go right back to, what Sebastian's stepdad does for a living, in my opinion. Sorry, guys, I'm just going back up a little bit here. Oh, okay. Sorry, guys. There we go. Oh, there's Mama Bear. Okay, Mama Bear says, Little Red, empty nest feeling is hard but fades in time when even one of our children flies the coop. That's so true. That is so true. And you want to be confident when they do that they can fly away and, do the right thing and, have a good life and, take care of themselves and have those life skills, Thanks, Mama Bear. And Carla says, Shannon Gilbert, her sis unalived her mother. Oh, I do remember that. Yes. Michelle says if you have to keep receipts, then that person is part of the problem and isn't beneficial to the child missing it all. I agree, Michelle. Well said. Well said. SI officer says, yes, I've been telling everybody to look at that too. Take a screenshot and zoom that in and play with a contrast. Absolutely. Carrie Starr says, blessed it could only help the criminal case. Annette says, I saw that with Yellow Coat when At Night put it out, but nothing more was said about him. I know, and I think about the Yellow Jacket guy all the time, right? He's always considered because I do think that he had a picture of Sebastian on his phone, and I'd really like to know why. you know, and I took the original and zoomed in on it, and then I slowed it down all the way. And you can definitely see it coming into focus, in my opinion. Oh, Baba Rose says, I heard the guy with the watch is Yellow Jacket guy's son. That's very possible. He resembles him, right? And we were looking at the differences, and I think it's two totally separate people, Baba Rose. So that could really very well be it, you know? Yeah, we love hindsight. And Meg says, Carla, yes, she has mental illness, so the other sister took over and her case and kept the lawyer working for Shannon. Oh, yeah. I do remember that case. And Lori says, I saw some of this when you first started reviewing the photo, but I didn't realize it had to go on this far, and I didn't realize that Yellow Jacket had his own place. Yeah, I mean, I really didn't think about it too far into it until I really got to see, you know, that there was clearly this guy had Sebastian on his phone. It matched up with what he was wearing, and it even came into focus. Like, we either saw him sitting at the table, or maybe it was on the way out of the roadhouse. But nevertheless, I think it's something that should, you know, definitely be talked about more extensively. You know, and we have, Little Red, we'll just talk amongst ourselves. Thank you, Little Red. Poor Django. I don't know why he's coughing today. He usually doesn't do that, but he has before. As to your dog, I've heard that is a reverse sneeze. If you put when he is doing it, the fingertips over his nostril, it'll help it. I don't know. Try it. I will do that. Thank you, SI officer. I don't know why he does that sometimes, you know? Hindsight says no words for this, in my opinion. It's just crazy, you know? It's just crazy. Oh, thank you, Brenda Brown. Thank you so much for your super sticker. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Wow, thank you. And took you 8 days to do this interview. Why? Right? That is such a good question. I mean, they waited quite a while, and until the search scaled back even, you know? It's just crazy. It's just crazy. And hindsight 2002 says, lady, regardless of who Yellow Coat is, the photo was Sebastian, in my opinion. Agreed. Right. Yeah, we don't know exactly who this person is, and it's so hard because, you know, he appears to have layered clothes on, and then, you know, a hoodie, and then a jacket on top, and, you know, it's just very hard to identify, especially you know, with all of the mask. You know, the video was pretty clear. I will say that, you know, thank God. Thank God for that. And hey, Vanna says, I believe Seth needs to push to have his case given over to the FBI and Secret Service. A trafficked child's lifespan is usually 3 years. They need to change this up. Yeah, I think so too, Vanna. You know, and I'm not sure, you know, what to believe in terms of whether Sebastian was taken, you know, for that purpose, or if he was taken somewhere, you know, and they're hiding him out somewhere, which, you know, seems like it could be a realistic, you know, conclusion, or, you know, educated guess, maybe, right? But, or maybe the school could be a possibility. We have explored those things, but I definitely agree that the FBI needs to, you know, they need to be invited in, and they should probably take this over, in my opinion, you know. And I don't mean that to disparage anybody that's been working hard on the case. I really don't want to do that. But I think it's necessary to, you know, advance the case, right? Because it's kind of, you know, stale as it is. They keep saying they're working on it, we're working on it, but thank you, Brenda. Thank you. But it doesn't seem like it, right? Because we're not seeing anything. So I guess that might be something too. You know, maybe there are things going on that we don't know about. So I will consider that. But it sure is frustrating. Miss Kim 77 says, in my opinion, she was sending text to a phone in her pocket and gave the phone to the hoodie person at the restaurant. Oh, that's really interesting, Miss Kim 77. That would explain a lot, right? Because we were wondering how, he would have gotten that angle or how he would have gotten the picture to begin with, thinking that maybe she was sending it to him. But if she was sending it to herself and then gave a burner phone, that would actually make a lot of sense, because I do believe that burner phones were used in this case, um, and we have to remember that, law enforcement knew about a lot of this stuff. And, one thing I want to point out about the clip is that it really bothers me that when Chris is talking to America's Most Wanted, he bundles himself in with Seth as if, to say, look, we're all being harassed and we're all being this and we're all being that. But then behind the scenes, he's calling Seth disparaging things. He's blaming Seth for having an ill-timed relationship with Katie. He is having his private eye that just recently left the case blast all over, and to anyone who would listen, that Seth should be jailed for having a relationship with Sebastian's mother. It's absolutely bonkers. It's absolutely bonkers. And then he has the nerve to get up there and say, oh, well, me and his mother and his father and law enforcement, he just bundles everybody in together. But then behind the scenes, he's doing all of this, crazy crap, this negativity, you know. And Lil Redo says CLE has seen all of that. Think about it. If he had a picture of him on his phone, LE would have already arrested him. I think it's something else and a bit original. I don't know. Well, and that's fair. I just think that, law enforcement probably isn't taking anything that the internet has to offer, in my opinion. So I think that if, we send them a video, which I have sent the video in, that I made, because obviously I feel like it's evidence, or that it's showing that Sebastian was on this gentleman's phone. But to me, they must not be really looking into that, right? Because if they'll watch the video, you can definitely see him coming into focus, and I've sent it over. I just don't think that they're interested in anything that comes from the internet. That's my take on it. But I mean, I could be wrong. It makes me wonder though, because it's like, here's this information, I've given it over to you, right? Um, Thanks, Brenda. And Holly S says, I'm afraid they're going to give Seth a load of BS to keep him quiet. Well, and that's a strong possibility too. We have seen that a lot in this case, where they want to silence people. They want people to shut up, stop talking about Sebastian, and they've done that from the beginning. They've detoured good organizations from coming in to help. Chris took credit for the United Cajun Navy in the beginning when it wasn't even him. They even said on Nancy Grace they were talking to Seth. What's the big deal? And why do they have to lie about it? Michelle says, if we keep idea of a good old boy system theory, that it's safe then to say nothing will be done with this case if it's not moved to a higher authorities that hold on basis and opinions and needs to get all the drama under control. Yeah, I agree. And I just don't think they will, right? Because those are their people. And, they don't want anybody coming in and telling their people what to do in their town, right? It's just kind of that mentality, in my opinion. Oh, thanks, Miss Kim 77. Looks like an army tractor. Maybe that's what it was. Like one of those, yeah, like the tank or something. Thank you. Thank you. Mama Bear says, oh, thank you. Thank you, Mama Bear, for saying the Lord's Prayer. Thank you so much. I mean, And a lot of the faith, keeping the faith and making sure that we are saying prayers and that we're praying together and that we're making sure that, you know, we're giving that to God. So I appreciate you, Mama Bear, for typing that out and sharing it, because it almost seems like that's the only thing that we can do at this point, is just pray that things start changing, that the people that are keeping Sebastian's case from being in a higher authority, maybe they have a change of heart and realize that it needs to be looked at by a higher authority. That's a very good way of putting it. So thank you guys. And as excuse me, SI officer says, you can see in Yellow Jacket Guy's glasses the images he's viewing on his monitor. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking it is. I think it's a reflection from something he's watching, right? I think so. Yeah, that's my opinion. Um, well, I think they were trying to get us to focus on the green hoodie in that video, but then someone zoomed in on that guy's phone and they actually caught the image, right? But then when I went back in, because I didn't want to take it from that person's image, I wanted to grab it from the original, or what was posted, the Texas Roadhouse video. Um, so I zoomed in myself and then slowed it all down. You know what I mean? So, but I think that's what they were trying to get us to look at, was Green Hoodie. But then we see these other characters, like the pink jacket lady, or pink sweater, or sweatshirt. We see these people that are kind of meandering around, and there's no real reason for them to be there. It's very strange, and you typically don't see that in a restaurant of that caliber, right? You usually see maybe that in a fast food restaurant where people are coming in and out and using the bathroom, that sort of thing. But at a Texas Roadhouse, you don't typically see that many people who aren't there specifically to eat steak or, um, salmon or whatever's on the menu, right? It's odd. And Carla says Little Redo, and they say no one at Texas Roadhouse is a suspect. Even Justin says this. Yeah, and it's not that I don't agree, because that's what they're saying, right? I mean, and that's what people are going to go off of. But when I see this image come alive on this guy's phone, I'm like, there's no way that it's not Sebastian, and that's not to disparage anybody else's, take on things or opinions or anything like that. I respect Justin a lot. And couponing says, Little Reddy, sorry to hear about, oh, I'm sorry guys, I probably shouldn't have had to read that. Yes, hindsight, Mama Bear, amen. Lord hears our prayers. And I do believe that the Lord hears our prayers. And I think the more that we do pray together, the better, because it does make us feel like we're doing something positive to help, right? It just does, or even spreading awareness and flyers and things like that. Adam Forever 21. Well, it's just gotten so out of hand with her too. It's all about me, me, me. Let me get up, let me go on panel to panel and hop around and talk bad and, tell these people what they want to hear. And, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And SI officer says exactly, nobody's doing a damn thing. They don't even turn emails or phone calls, no matter how many they get. Well, and I mean, I've called on a couple of instances that have happened online, and I didn't expect them to give me a call back, unless they needed more information. But I did clip, the part that I wanted them to see and stuff like that. And you just hope that it doesn't end up buried, in the email or whatever. Because it does tell you from the TBI that when you send in information to the tip line, that it doesn't get checked daily. And it kind of gives you a little bit of a, disclaimer along with telling you we received the information that you sent. But it is definitely just for the public, and it's not checked regularly. And they'll say that in the email that, you get back. And in my opinion, they've gotten leads and they're just not listening, Holly asked too. I believe that, because I mean, unfortunately, I've sent a lot of things in, and like I said, you don't see anything come of it, and maybe that's because they tracked him down, but you just begin to wonder, and it's just speculation, and probably a lot of frustration because of the things, that are going on in the case otherwise. And then also Sebastian has not been found yet, he just hasn't been found, um, and it's been too long. And Vanna says schools have been involved in trafficking. McMartin case was a big one years ago. I'm not saying he is trafficked, but there are leads that should have been pursued. Yeah, I agree. Well, and especially if this guy, Richard Bishop, does in fact have connections to a school, I don't think it would hurt to look into it. I just really don't. Especially because if that is Richard Bishop, which I don't know that it is, and he has connections to a school, then we probably should look into it. Oh, uh-oh. Hold on, let me try that thing that you guys told me. Hold on a second. Okay, guys. All right. I think that's good. I think that's a good solution. So thank you. I try to get him to go have water because what'd you say? It's a reverse sneeze. But he hasn't done that in a really long time. I wonder if it's like something. I gave him a bone earlier. I wonder if he gets it stuck in his throat or something. Um, you know, I have a hard time sometimes, Cinderella. I really do. Because I know there's a lot of good people out there that really want to help and they really just want Sebastian to be found. And I know that they're working really hard, but it's tough. Um, Well, and I think that's a lot of it that needs to happen, Mama Bear, is like if people are slandering and defaming other people, they just really have to take that legal action. And it's a pain in the butt. It's an extra step. It's taking time away from, what we're really focused on and finding Sebastian, bringing awareness. But I agree. I think that at some point it needs to happen, where um you just can't let it happen anymore. I mean, if it's the truth, it's not slander or defamation, but if they're saying things that aren't true and they're making up lies, then that's definitely grounds for that. And anybody will tell you that. And I think it's important, even though I know it's hard. Um, Couponing says maybe St. Anthony's prayer will find Sebastian. I think all prayers help. I really do, Couponing, but that's a really good idea. Um, and Kim says, how did Julie slander Tony? I think, and I don't know what all she has said, but I will say that in the video that I watched, and I'm trying to think of how long ago it was on, so I might misquote it here, but it was something that I think was being said maybe late to early this week, late last week, early this week, I think somewhere around there, Kim, and she was talking about, you know, some peewee football kind of goings on that were going back and forth. And Tony addressed it, and he was explaining it. But I think more so the connotations of Tony being like the ringleader of a company that he was only an employee of, was something that was a little bit too far, in my opinion. And it could border that, right? Because you're basically saying, I'm going to tell you guys all about Tony Mathis and how horrible he is and what all he's done. And then she gets up there and tells us that, unfortunately, there was a company that he got involved in, and they were doing bad things, and he didn't know. He was just an employee there, right? And so, but it's that blaming him, right? And then there was a bankruptcy, I suppose, when his child had passed away. I mean, it's just some really horrible, in my opinion, horrible things that you don't do. None of us would want that done to us. So why would you do that? Right. And then she goes into the Pee Wee Football League where, heaven forbid he was trying to, get the best opportunities for his child. It just, I think it's going too far. I don't understand why Tony is the subject of ridicule when he's just helping Seth, but anybody that helps Seth is the subject of ridicule. It doesn't matter. It's really strange. Anyone who points out the obvious with Chris and Katie are the subject of ridicule. And then we have people deciding that they're going to, get us all worked up over here about this issue. And then they're going to go over there and switch sides and go talk to them and, talk bad about this person, that person. It's just, it's confusion, distraction, and it doesn't help. I don't know some of the horrible things she's been saying as of late, hopping from panel to panel. Again, I can't catch everything, but I was told that she was out there defaming Tony, and I need to look into it before I discuss it more. But in my opinion, what she's doing isn't right. I mean, it's uncalled for at the very least. None of us would want, those things brought up. So, and really it has nothing to do with Sebastian. It's just, like I said, another distraction. So Sammy says, I just see that he is of Jewish faith, and on the bed of Ark, he looks much thinner than a Yellow Jacket, in my opinion. Yeah, he looks different to me too, Sammy. It's hard. I can't pinpoint who that person is. That's what's tough. I was hoping law enforcement could really help out with it, but hey, Detroit Rock City. Yeah, like they're all working together, right? Exactly. And hindsight 2002 says, Miss Kim, that makes sense since Yellow Coat waited at the exit door of the restaurant inside after using the restroom for 2 minutes, and KP and Sebastian walked out with him. She could have given the phone then, in my opinion. Yeah, I think so too, hindsight. Excuse me, I do. Yeah, I mean, I think so too, Sasha. They usually clear people pretty quickly, but they haven't done that. And I think a big reason they haven't cleared Seth is because, they don't want to tip anybody off, Oh, Sammy says, I feel defeated about this case. That's the right word. Since Nick Barris came out last, I just don't even feel right about that. Yeah, I understand. I know that was a big controversy with Nick Barris. Absolutely, Sammy. And, we don't know what to, think. That's right, Loretto. We do just speculate. That's right. Everything's allegedly in our opinions, Oh, Lori, no, you didn't. And SI officer says, in my opinion, an absolutely frustrating circus as everyone is feeling it who loves and cares for Sebastian, and justice for him and Seth. This is completely unfair to Seth. I mean, it just is. I couldn't believe that was one of the things he was defending today. Or maybe it was yesterday. That very well could be. Which clip, Loretto? The one of Sebastian? I don't have it loaded tonight. I don't have it in here. Sammy says, I agree about the burner phones, and she definitely had multiple phones, but I can pull it in tomorrow. Yellow coat guy. I will do that. Sorry, Sammy. Sammy says, I agree about the burner phones, and she definitely had a couple phones at dinner and was doing a lot with them, but I can't play that out in my head. She gives Yellow Hoodie the burner phone to give. Yeah, I understand. And I mean, it's all speculation, and it's just something that might have happened. Sammy says, to CP or a person driving that car or what? Well, and it looked like there was a handoff with or excuse me, with Green Hoodie, and the police said nothing to see here, you know. Lori says, I worry about anything coming from YouTube. It's just tossed. Yeah, I think so, Lori. I think so too. And that's what I worry for too. And then it's like, who do we send it to, right? Maybe start sending it over to FBI too. But if they're not going to be able to do anything, all they're going to do is send it back to them, right? So it's a vicious circle. It's like we send it to FBI hoping that they can help, but if they have not been invited in, then it's not their jurisdiction and they will send it over to TBI or Sumner County. And then again, we're segregated to where Chris wants the information sent. And it just bothers me, it really does. Brenda Brown said, I used to follow Julie. Oh no, hold on, guys. Okay, I don't know. I think he might not feel good or something because his nose is not cold. Huh, buddy, are you okay? Oh, man. All right, guys, I might have to cut it a little bit short and make sure he's going to be all right. Brenda Brown says, I used to follow Julie, but had to leave when I heard she was bashing Seth and Tony. Shame on her. Yeah, Brenda, it's just too much. It's not helpful. It's like, it's kind of like that thing, like, do no harm. You know what I mean? Like, do no harm. Yeah, thanks, Mama Bear. Do no harm and try to, at least. I mean, there's going to be things we point out. We do a lot of things for like entertainment purposes, right? The memes I put in the videos and things, but it's just another thing to go after people like that and to go real life. It's just not okay. And especially somebody like Tony who's always been pretty straightforward about himself, in my opinion. um it's just not helpful. Adam Forever 21 says they should be suspect number one. Ran through ran through the mill. This is ridiculous. This boy needs higher help to find. No random perp took him. In my opinion, someone was with her, and it's obvious. Well, and and that's really possible. Adam Forever 21. I think so too. I think my theory is Sebastian made it to the house, and I think somebody, came and took him in the middle of the night, and it very well could have been that guy, and it's just, I think that we have proof in the flashlight video. I think we have proof in the enhanced photo, and I think we do have proof of the yellow jacket having, Sebastian on his phone, so it's just tough. Detroit Rock City says the judge, that crazy Texas lady's, the judge took that crazy Texas lady's phone and postponed the case until Seth, uh, or until August for Seth. Hopefully something good will come of it. And allegedly she was put up to it by the, oh snap. I didn't know that, Detroit, by the B Sox. Ooh, those stinky bee socks. I'm telling ya. Thanks, couponing. And that's the crazy thing, guys. We know that these people have a history of being put up to these, dirty deeds, right? It's weird. Kim says, why would an elite intelligence agency put out a video to the public asking for clues and tips? That's a good point, Kim. I think because they see the importance and they value the public, because there are so many cases that have been solved because of the public's help. And I know that law enforcement doesn't always like to admit that, because the majority of cases are solved by law enforcement, let's be honest. But I think that it's important, and I think that they value everybody's sets of eyes, right? All of our brains, all of our eyes, all of our ears. What do we see? See something, say something, hear something, tell. So I think it's really important that they ask the public for clues. And I think that it shows how humble and how, again, they can see the value in the public helping, right? And I think they were also, a bit cornered when SF was putting out those photos himself, right? So they said, let's put out some more. And I think it has helped with, getting more tips and people being able to see Sebastian's demeanor, people being able to see Sebastian get up and use the bathroom. Was there, there was a major discrepancy in the way that Chris and Katie portrayed Sebastian and the way that we saw him at the Texas Roadhouse. One major thing, Sebastian is very polite. He is very aware of his surroundings. He was very aware of his mother. He was very alert. But another thing that was very important that stood out to me was that Sebastian got up and he used the bathroom all by himself, right? They sat there and acted like Sebastian couldn't use the bathroom without using a pull-up. But here we see him in the Texas Roadhouse video get up, go to the bathroom just like anybody else would, and come back and sit down. So my theory, after finding out that this person who may or may not be the yellow jacket guy, could possibly have been someone from a school who was looking at Sebastian and wanted to make sure that he could handle the bathroom on his own. I mean, if we're supposed to believe that Chris wanted him to be in, pull-ups all the time because Sebastian just simply couldn't understand to use the bathroom, or just wouldn't because, Chris was saying he liked to have accidents, which is absurd and ridiculous. But nevertheless, he's saying this, right? But we see Sebastian just, clear as day, get up. Hey, Kathy Bartholomew, get up, use the bathroom, come back. No help needed from Katie. No fresh anything taken with him to the, to the restroom. It's not like she gave him a fresh anything for the restroom, right? To put back on himself, right? Like a pull-up. Kind of weird. Lil Redo says, I just feel like they have looked at all of this, and I know they have better equipment than we do. It's just getting old, nothing being said about anything. I know, and I really wish they would come out and just debunk some of this stuff themselves, but I feel like, they don't want to do that. And especially when they're just putting Facebook posts out and not really wanting to come out and say anything. They didn't want to be, interviewed on camera for Dateline. Neither did Chris and Katie, though. So, there's that. Hey, Gen C. Gen C says, I am in no way on the side of KP and CP, but all the parents failed Sebastian. Do I think CP and KP did something? Yes, in my opinion. The minute Sebastian came in, pull-ups and no boxers, that would be it. I'd step in. Yeah, that's a really great point, Gen C. And, and I understand that. There's going to be a lot of things in the case where we're going to see it in different ways, right? We may agree on some aspects of it, but then other ones we're going to say, I'm going to blame all the parents for failing Sebastian in the system and different things, because we do see that there was a pattern of that happening, right? Where there was issues. Katie wasn't telling, Seth what was going on. It sounds like Chris was trying to buddy up with Seth, in my opinion, because he knew that there was some CPS cases coming out. We hear the way that he was talking to him in the beginning. Don't be mad, but Sebastian's missing. Stuff like that. So, I mean, I would have to respectfully disagree. I don't think that Sebastian was failed by Seth. I think that Seth was banking on the fact that Sebastian was going to come live with him after school let out, and I think he was just picking his battles with the Proud Feet. I really do. I think he was picking his battles with them. I think Seth is a very smart guy who can judge people, and he was probably trying to just make sure that he can wait this, ride out the storm, so to speak. In my opinion, I don't know, but this is just my guess. Ride out that storm a little bit, and then we're home free, right? Sebastian's living with me, no problems anymore. You won't ever have to deal with that little bitch again. And Lori says, I wonder if all these people at the Texas Roadhouse and the cars driving some routes multiple days at the house were trial runs for what they had planned, but something went wrong and we have the lights video. That's very possible, Lori. Some people even speculate that there was, a very strong possibility that, Sebastian was being told that he was going to go with that great, excuse me, I keep wanting to call the yellow coat, green hoodie, right? So let me back up. So in the Texas Roadhouse video, it does look like Katie and Sebastian are having a tough conversation, and Sebastian kind of looks like he's very reluctant, in my opinion. And he also does look over in the direction of the yellow coat, and he looks like he might be saying, like, no, kind of a thing, right? So we can definitely see that he absolutely notices green hoodie, in my opinion. Oh, excuse me, I did it again. Yellow jacket guy, in my opinion. And so, it's been alleged that he was refusing to go with this guy, right? And that could be a possibility too. So thank you, Lori, because there's a lot of different scenarios that can fit. Only one is going to fit into the main timeline. The problem is that we don't have a very clear timeline because the person who is supposed to be helping us out with that, Katie Proudfoot, is not telling the truth, in my opinion. Same thing with Chris Proudfoot. They are not going to give us the straight answer or the straight story because they're lying. It's never going to make sense to rational folks like us because they're lying, and it doesn't add up, in my opinion. Okay, thank you, Holly S. Thank you. I know, I need to go look too. Carla says At Night has put out videos for us to look close at, all of us. I totally believe because LE sweeping all of it under the rug. Dog wants us all to see so they can't sweep it under the rug. Very well said, Carla. I agree. Very well said. Yeah, absolutely. That is another really strong point as to why they would release that information and want us to take a look. Absolutely. Because when it's out there, it's undeniable, right? The police already have this footage, allegedly. So, something is so wrong and weird, but why? I know, Loretto, I agree. Carla says, that was me, lady, that told you to look at the... Okay, thank you, phone. Yeah, I found the pic. Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much. Yes, you did. You did. I remember that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and see, that's what's really great about this too, is that we can work together, right? And we can get a lot of stuff done. But if we're divided, we can't. And see, that's why I think they are aiming to divide, smear, discredit, humiliate people that are trying to work together for a common goal to find Sebastian. Because if they can divide that, or even make a little even make a little split in and segregate, if you will, which is what Chris liked to use tonight. So we'll just keep up with that. If you segregate things and segregate people, then it's going to be harder for us to make those connections because we're separated, right? We're too busy fighting over little details to realize what the bigger picture actually is, which is finding Sebastian. That's who matters. It doesn't really matter the little tiny nuances because they're doing that to distract us and to confuse us, right? And we've talked about order by chaos, right? If they sit here and they can control what's going on by making it very chaotic, right? Then they win because normal people are going to see that chaos and they're going to be like, oh, I don't want nothing to do with that. Hands off, never mind. I don't want nothing to do with that. And, and then they win. I think it might be allergies, Vana. I think so too, because he never usually does that. Allergy season, hindsight says. I know, poor little guy. Like his nose was like, I checked again over there, and his nose wasn't even cold, and I'm like, aw. And Joan says, I had people behind me taking down flyers that I had placed, they were telling store managers that Sebastian had been found. See, and I've heard the same thing, Joan. Thank you so much for saying that, because that is something that I've heard too from local people, right? No matter how many times they go and put them up, they're being taken down, because they're being lied to. Oh, that little boy was found. And thank you so much for putting the flyers up in the first place. Thank you. Lori says they all want this stuff to stop out here on YouTube or the internet, but they don't even give a statement to stop it. Well, and I agree with that. I think if they were to come out with a solid, analysis for us, it might help some things. It might not. It might cause more controversy, and maybe that's what they're worried about, or maybe that's why they don't do it, because they feel like, they may or they may not. Yeah, I did. Yes, I did try to with the one it worked. He was kind of like, "What is going on?" Thank you, Rogue. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, and that's okay, Sammy. Sammy says, I love and respect Justin a lot as well, but we differ on several things, and that's okay because we all have different perspectives, but the same end goal. And I think premeditated, and he thinks spontaneous, etc. Exactly. Yeah. But even I like to listen to different perspectives too, Sammy. So I agree, like even when Boy Mom was saying her perspective, and I was like, she's so right. If in fact Katie did have, like, say an accident occurred, right? Or maybe she did something and she lost control, she snapped, right? And then she calls Chris. The minute that he doesn't call 911 on her, he's directly involved, right? And he calls his mom, and now they're directly involved. And since somebody didn't do the right thing to begin with, they can all be involved, right? And that was just kind of like, in a nutshell, my perspective on what she was saying, right? But I mean, it's very possible. So I kind of keep you know, a little bit open with things. But do I think that Sebastian was taken out during the flashlight video? I do. I still have that as my strongest possibility, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't change my perspective if I saw something that would change it. Like, a new fact comes into play, or we find out that it's this and not this, right? And then I'll have more to consider. And so that's why it's so confusing though. She was going on again today, Holly S says. Oh my goodness. Yeah, maybe, Lori. And to see, he doesn't do it all the time. The reverse sneeze. Yeah, he doesn't do it all the time, but he has done it on the show before. um, oh, yes, yes. I'll have to look at it, Lil Redo. I'll have to look. I saw that one of the text messages came in from you. And Holly S says now it's gotten to his home and deed, etc. I know, and see, and that's too much, Holly S. I mean, it's just too much. Nobody would want anybody doing that to them. So why is she doing that? That is just a waste of time, energy, and it's awful. It's just not right. It's not right. I really wish that all of it would just stop. I mean, who cares? And it's nothing bad. Like, now, don't get me wrong. If heaven forbid, or hypothetically speaking, if Julie came out was like, for instance, Tony came out and it's been, proven, and she shows us receipts that he hurt somebody or something like that, I might change my perspective. But she's literally talking about financial difficulties in a difficult, traumatic situation in his life. She's drudging that up, right? Rude. Rude. And she's off. She's nuts. She's freaking nuts. Only a bad person does that. Sorry, not sorry. Only a bad person does that and harasses somebody else. There's no good that can ever come of somebody doing something so horrible. And karma's a bitch. And Rogue says, I literally am so tired of drama, and I feel like I get a break when I come here and I see all of you as friends, but the drama coming from other channels is stressing me out, and I am not alone. Right. And I know it's frustrating as hell, you know? It really is, because it's like, let's find out, let's get to the bottom of what happened to Sebastian. You know what I mean? Oh, your little Frenchies can't eat chicken at all, huh, Loretto? Don't watch the dark channels. I know it's hard to try. Sometimes I do. I mean, even though, because I like to get other people's perspectives, you know, I don't really like to give the views, but it's like, you know, especially if Chris is ranting on one of them or something like that. But, you know, thank God for clips, you know? Yeah, Pee Wee football, Kim, I'm not sure I follow, but okay, I don't understand half of it. Yeah, it was, you know, a kind of a back and forth. Um, about his son playing football, you know, and there was a discrepancy. A lot of times when kids are really, really good, you know, they'll find any reason for them not to be able to play. It's just so politically charged, and, you know, and things like that, that in personal, Julie, personal and private, right? Because she likes to share a lot of information about, you know, even embarrassing details about her own family that she plasters all over the internet, in my opinion, you know. But the only reason she's getting any kind of like praise is it praise for it is because she's going after someone who's helping Seth. So they can't wait. They just sit there like this. Oh, let's find out what Tony did when all he did was try to better his child's situation. That's all. The best opportunities for his child, in my opinion. Oh, thank you, SI officer. There's not a day that goes by, not there is not a day that does not go by that I do not pray that we find Sebastian, and I apologize to him every day in prayer for what he's been through, and I let him know that he is loved. Oh, thank you, SI officer. You know, I think that's a good prayer, and I think, you know, just like, you know, we were talking about earlier, I agree with Mark. I mean, you know, there's a lot of things in this case that we all could have done differently from the beginning, you know, but now it's just like, it's a little too late, right? To do the right thing now. It's a little too late. And we just need to move forward, try our best to do right, you know, still. I mean, even though it is too late to go back and change everything that's happened, but we can still move forward and do the right thing, you know, and work on not giving them so much, you know, win for their sales. Because like I said, I was guilty of it too, because I'm playing Chris Proudfoot, but now it's like, you can't help but not play him. You know, you really can. I mean, you know, because people are going to turn around and play Seth and say, oh, look at him, he's crazy, yelling and screaming. No, he's not crazy. He was actually, you know, clapping back about what happened earlier in the day, that Chris went on panel and just completely set a torch to all of his team members and all of the people that are out there trying to help find Sebastian. You know, he can't have that. And then people get hurt feelings, and then, you know, they're like, well, I'm helping Seth, but Seth isn't helping me any, you know, and here I am being harassed and da 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 da. Well, he has no choice then. He's backed into a corner, in my opinion. I'd have done the same thing, but I'd have done it, you know, months before that, because I'm not that patient, you know. But I don't know. I commend the way he handled it. And again, any man who is willing to stand up to another man who is treating a woman or child in a way that they are bullying, intimidating, hurting, I commend that man, because there's a lot of men that just sit by and let it happen and think it's funny. Far too many of them do. Far too many of them. Or they'll participate in it and they think they're tough, you know, and it makes them feel like a big man to do it. And they should really be ashamed, because all they are is a coward. Like I said, go find a guy at the corner bar that matches your stature and talk shit to him and see how you fare. Because if you're only doing that to women, then you're a pussy. Demonetize my video. He's a pussy. You know? Sorry. That's what I think of a person who picks on women and children. That's what you're reduced to, in my opinion. Holly S. says she was doing it again today, also saying that Justin and Smiley threatened her, which, oh man, they did not, and she was going off on Brittany again. You know, and does it ever get old for them to pick on the same people too? It's ridiculous, you know? Ugh, I hate that, Holly S. That's crazy. Lil Red says, not being ugly, but being honest, there's some sort of something going on. There are channels who were handpicked by Tony, etc. to cover. Well, I don't think anything is wrong with that. I think that people can choose whoever they want to work with, right? Because me personally, if it was my child, I would want to pick the people that were going to represent my child. If I had people representing my child the way that Sebastian has been represented, I would never want them to talk about my child. And actually, I would be fighting against it tooth and nail every single day to get them off of my child's case. The way that they're portraying Sebastian, the way that these people are allowing for Chris to get up here and be absolutely disgusting, like a full ass pig on the internet, and say that he's spreading awareness. And then Katie gets up there and says that they're spreading awareness. That is not spreading awareness. No way. No. I see Justin representing Sebastian very well. That was somebody that was chosen by Seth, right? And Seth is choosing these people. It's not Tony choosing these people. It's Seth choosing these people. So when Seth is choosing these people to cover Sebastian's case, that is very, very, very important, because he is choosing the people who are representing his son. And who am I and who are you and who is anybody to say that he shouldn't be allowed and have the authority to pick who is going to be taking care of his son's case? Because at this point, I would have it be very, very minimal because of all of the fuckery and all of the shit that has been brought into Sebastian's case. I would just never, ever, ever have, the patience for it. So no, I don't think that's fair, Lil Red, and I absolutely disagree. I think, for one, Tony does not choose. Seth chooses. In my opinion, and I also think that they have every right to do that, and they should not be criticized for it, because it's his choice. That's his child, and as bad as things have gotten, I don't think he has a choice about whether to choose or not. I mean, I'm sure he wants everybody to spread awareness. That's the goal. But in terms of people that he works with closely, I would keep that circle so small, so very small, and I would not let anybody in it. I wouldn't, because I wouldn't be able to trust anybody. I wouldn't. Scranton Strangler says, lady, she posted another one a day or two ago with Tony and his wife. Oh no, put his wife's picture out. Oh no, I tried to tell her not to do it. Oh Lord. See, and he specifically said on Britney's that his wife doesn't want to be shown. Like, she doesn't want her picture out there. But of course, Julie's so disrespectful that she just puts her picture out there, huh? Real freaking nice. Yeah, and we need morale to be high, Holly S., Vanna says, Holly, I saw her latest one, and she's accusing several people of threatening her. She needs to be 100% ignored because she is mentally deviant and enjoys the chaos, in my opinion. Well said. Absolutely well said. Vanna says, or Holly S. says, Vanna, I completely agree. I honestly cannot stomach her videos. I don't think anyone is threatening her. No, they're not. No, who's threatened her? What does she have receipts of? Thank you, Rogue. Thank you. What does she have receipts? Let me see. I want to see her being bullied, because she's been bullying people for weeks. So I want to see where she is getting bullied. I want to see it. I really would love to see it, Ugh. Holly S says Lady Freedom Smiley said on her live today that allegedly in the bowling alley video, their footage of Katie hitting Sebastian in the back of the head. Allegedly, I pray that is released soon. Oh my god. No, I knew there was a reason they weren't putting that out, you know? There's, oh my gosh. Oh boy. Well, thanks, Holly, for sharing that. I don't know. Oh boy. I really hope that's not true. Oh my god. It does feel that way, Holly S., that Ellie is protecting these people. You know, it's okay if our people do it because they're, you know, oh gosh. Oh boy. You know, and that's the shit of it, you know? I mean, Sebastian gets lost in the mix because they're protecting these assholes. Because if the public sees that, if that's true and the public sees that, God help the feet. Oh, maybe that's it, Detroit. Because remember he was doing that kind of in the fall a little bit, the winter, and then spring. So maybe it's a spring. Yeah. If it gets really bad, the vet said to give him a half a Benadryl. Could be high pollen if he's used to eating a roll in the grass. Well, see, we have sand here a lot. Like there's some grass, but it's like real sandy. Oh, thanks, Loretto. I will. I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna try. He's been okay for the last couple minutes, you know. I know. I feel so bad for him, Rogue. I think it might be something like that. Poor little guy, because he's just his nose is not cold or wet, you know. Carla says I've been screaming for that for a long time. Um, they only started communication with Seth when Dog started calling attention to Snuggle struggles to do his job. Well, I can't argue that because that is about the time that it seemed like they were coming out. Also, the Texas Roadhouse video too happened, right? That was before that. Yeah, that's a good point, Carla. You know, I know my allergies have been acting up since the weather got warmer. Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that, Rogue. I know, and the dogs are the same. You know. Holly S says Lady Freedom, now they're digging into the deed of his house and everything. Ugh, yikes. Thank you, Miss Kim. Thanks for being here, hon. Thank you so much, and thank you for the green hearts. Thank you for the conversation. I appreciate you. Why is every single thing bad that this man does gets to be sealed and hidden? It's not the case for anyone else, so why him? It needs to stop. Yeah, I mean, and everybody has mistakes in their past. Nobody's going to be perfect. There's not going to be one single perfect person that's going to be able to help us in this situation besides Jesus and God, right? I mean, let's be honest with that. So any person that comes into here doesn't need to be, you know, shit on. And Rogue says, I just want to know the game plan. What in the heck? Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, this is why they don't have social media as credible because of the drama. Well, and you know, but if you hear something, see, and I get that, Rogue. That's a really good point. I appreciate you pointing that out. Because you know, yeah, law enforcement is going to see this and they're going to be like, "Oh my gosh, what a ridiculous shit show," right? And they're not going to want to deal with it. But in the same token, if you have a father out there that is threatening people online, then, you know, something needs to be done about him. We've seen nothing but threats from the very beginning, you know? Yeah, SI officer, I hate being, you know, right on that, but I think it is true, That's true. Hindsight. Thank you. Yeah, YouTubers found poor Gabby's van when no one else could. That is so true. They had the old footage, right? And then they went back over and they were like, okay, here's her van. And then they found her. That's so true. Thanks, hindsight. I appreciate you. And Holly S says Julie also said that Seth has had a spotty work history and moves around a lot. Oh my God. Oh my God. And that he hardly even had Sebastian. He moved halfway across the country to be with his son. I mean, for crying out loud. Thanks, Holly S., for pointing that out. What is wrong with her, for real? Like, I'm sorry, but that's absolutely spiteful, vindictive behavior because he doesn't want to work with her. And neither do I. Neither do a lot of people. That's our prerogative. There were a lot of people that said that she reached out and they did not want to work with her because of her attitude, because of the way she does things, and because she doesn't allege, she doesn't say in my opinion, she doesn't say any of that. She just attacks people. And that's her problem. In my opinion, that's what Julie's problem is that she always speaks in absolutes. She's always right and everybody else is wrong. She never apologizes for the misinformation that she puts out there. And it's just absolutely wrong. Oh, yes. He's under 20 pounds, I think. No, actually, he probably is. He's a grumpy little beagle, is what he is. Detroit. Thank you, Detroit. Ivana says, yeah, I said that, Holly. She's sick, in my opinion. Just totally sick. Thanks, Miss Lori. Hey, Lori. Thank you for the green hearts. Thanks for hitting the like. Brenda says, I read that at night we'll be putting up thousands more billboards all over the country. Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. And it needs to happen, It really does, because we need to spread awareness all over. And, people watching the America's Most Wanted video and then they see a billboard, that's double. So, hey, Juicy Jules. Awkward interview for sure. Carla says, and Seth can't get the cold case team because parents are not cleared. Oh, see, that's another good point, Carla. And that's what happens, That's what happens. And that's the problem that we're seeing here. It's very unfortunate. SI officer says, here's a thought way out of left field, the Winehouse case, Sebastian in diapers and CP make them wear them, in my opinion. Allegedly, could this be what the situation is we have here? Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know that any of our thoughts are way out of left field at this point, Maybe people who think that Sebastian walked off, because I really don't I think that one is the biggest left field for me. I just do. And that's not to, discredit anybody that thinks that or show hate or shade to anyone who believes, to the contrary of what I just said. But or believes that Sebastian walked off. I just don't think so, because he would have had been caught on camera somewhere. We would have seen him, right? How far could he have gotten without shoes and a coat, in wooded areas and things like that, I feel like Ellie comes out debunking things they didn't even really investigate, just my opinion. Well, and I don't know what to think about that, Scranton. I agree, but it's just, I wonder, I wonder. As the officer says, he liked to smell shit on his stick. They had a frog, just an observation. Carla says, Allie knows who took him. I'm sure the video cleaned up and they could see them, but it's them, the Proudfoot, so they won't do a dang thing. I don't know, Carla. I get frustrated as well, and I think the same thing sometimes, Holly S says, I think Seth has a lot of regrets. I feel so bad for him. He's been a better person than I have. I mean, I agree with that too. You know, um, I agree. Better person than I would have been, you know. I mean, it's just, one of those things, just really unfortunate. Nisi Marie says, Sebastian is more of a man than CP, my opinion. CP must be raised by TB, has his demeanor. I believe CP got punished a lot too. Mommy didn't help. Now look how his life looks, or his life took a turn. Yeah, that is very true in my opinion. You know, I think that Chris was mistreated as a child. And I think that's part of the reason why he has, in my opinion, narcissistic personality disorder, because he fits the traits that are given in the DSM-5. And I believe that. And I think that it doesn't help when you have mother enabling, and it doesn't help when you have negative male role models that show you that abuse is the answer. You know, so very well said, Nisi Marie. Thank you. And Kai Kai says, I don't understand why anyone is still sub to Julie. Like, why? As long as she has people watching her, she will never stop. Yeah. Well, and the horrible things that she does, you know, are not going to stop either. You know, unfortunately, you know, these people do have a right to state their own opinions and things like that. But the going real life and things like that, you know, I would never want to take somebody's channel out or anything like that. But certain people that are doing these dirty deeds behind the scenes, I don't think that there's a place anywhere for that to be allowed, because it's illegal activity and it's criminal. Holly S says, Lady Freedom, I tried looking into that school, but all I could do was find was a ghost hunting stories. I want to go to do a deeper dive. Yeah, you know, I'm still thinking about that school and thinking about Richard Bishop, you know, because I thought he was just a real estate attorney until Lolly said something about it today. So I did want to do more research on it. Absolutely, Holly S. I think it's important, you know. Hindsight 2002 says, in my opinion, they are trying relentlessly to locate him before making that step without having him. You know, I can definitely see that point to hindsight. And when I'm more optimistic, I do think that way. I can't lie. Because I do think that they are trying to locate him. And I think that they're trying to do that in order for them to take the next step. I absolutely believe that. You know, I mean, it definitely seems that way to me. But yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that. Thank you. Because you know, it is frustrating. And sometimes we do, you know, well, Rogue, good point. I feel defeated. Yeah. Sometimes we do feel defeated, you know, and I understand. You know, Juicy Jewel says, tell CP Edgar and KK are ABU to teen. They tried watching him. Oh, I know, Juicy Jules. I agree. That's true. That's true, Lori. Chris better be careful. He's getting older. Someday he might be in the diapers. Yeah, I agree. You know, um, well, she's getting a lot of attention from, you know, the meme channels. You know, that only are against that if it's not happening to them. Because heaven forbid it happens to them, then it's a woe is me and oh my god, I can't believe it. You know, but they're okay with doing it to other people. You know. Aw, hey Hopeful, it's good to see you. I know, Lori, you're right. So much shit out there. Who even knows what to think anymore? And that's it. You know, order by chaos. You know, the more chaos there is, the more, you know, they have control over the situation. You know, Kai Kai says, in my opinion, anyone who is watching her are just as bad as her. We're grown women. Exactly. And I don't understand why anybody thinks that that's okay. You know, they certainly wouldn't like it if it was happening to them, you know. Halia says, which is probably familiar with other schools like the one you're talking about, maybe even across the country. Well, see, they're all over the place too, right? And then there's also some of them in Mexico. I know that. Maybe Puerto Rico or I think it was Puerto Rico was the other one. I'd have to watch that documentary again. Oh, poor doggy. I know. We all have great insight if we use it for good of this child. I agree. I agree. Hindsight completely. We all have great insight if we use it for the good of this child. And that's what we really got to focus on too, is like, doing no harm and, trying not to focus on the BS, but it's so hard. It really is. And I'm not perfect with it either, trust. You know, well, he wasn't aware, Carla, and the thing is that he came out on TV and he said that. He's like, I didn't know, and then he was upset. He's like, I had to learn about that on a podcast. Could you imagine? I mean, imagine learning that on a podcast. Yeah, Lori, I was trying to do the nostril thing. He seems like he's okay now, but I think he might have allergies. I might have to give him a Benadryl. Um, I do like Sweetie Pie Low. I do like Sweetie Pie Low. She's very nice. I agree, Rogue. I agree. You know. Um Oh, hey Jude. Good to see you. Hey Jude. Thank you for being a member for 4 months. Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. So good to see you. So good to see you. Um Scranton Strangler says, Kai Kai, I sent her a message before she started posting the Tony videos. Don't do it. It was ignored. It's sad. I kind of liked her at first. Yeah, well, it's just not right to do it. It's not something a good person does. So it really bothered, the integrity factor. I agree, Rogue. It has to end. It has to end. And, please pick on somebody your own size, people. Or maybe don't pick on anybody at all. I don't know. Maybe that's another thought. Um, Oh, thank you, Detroit. I will. Oh gosh, he'd gobble anything up. I'm telling you, he's funny like that. I'm like, hey, he ate a flaming hot Cheeto off the floor the other day. Like it falls on the floor, he'd run over there and eat it really quick. I'm like, don't eat the flaming hot. Kim says, in my opinion, none of the 3 deserve Parent of the Year. They all fell short. Some more than others. Well, I don't think any of us, deserve to have Parent of the Year. I'm sure there's instances that we could all look back on and say, I wish I would have handled that differently, or, that wasn't the way I should have handled it because of this, or, next time I'm going to handle it this way because I think that's going to be more effective. So there's always things. And, when we're looking at true crime cases, we can't expect the norm, right? We have to expect that there's something that's going to be off on the path of what we're looking for, right? So when we go down, the Sebastian Rogers rabbit hole, we're going to find things in his past that are not going to be quote unquote normal, right? Who is normal, but quote unquote normal. We're going to see these things. We're going to see these patterns that we've seen in other cases. We're going to see things like essay happening in his mom and stepdad's house, right? Those are things that are typical in these cases when a child comes up missing. We're going to see CPS involvement. We are going to see one parent not knowing everything that's going on and the other parents hiding information from the other parent. It happens more often than we think. It's only when something horrible happens then we find out about it, or that anything's done about it, in my opinion. So it's important to remember. And I honestly, I can't with a good heart and with, a good feeling about it or mindset about it, blame Seth. I can't. He was doing everything he could do, and then he was also going to take Sebastian full time after he got out of school. But unfortunately, he didn't get that opportunity because something bad happened to Sebastian again in Chris and Katie's home. And I can't overlook that. I would be failing Sebastian if I did. I really would be. Good night, little Redo. Rogue says, is Tony Mathis linked to Sebastian Rogers' disappearance? If not, it's insignificant. Great point, Rogue. I mean, it's just that simple. It's just that simple. It's not hard. And I agree, I can't say it. Oh, that's so funny. I can't say that word. Scranton, the one your dog loves. That's so funny. That's funny. Carla says Sumner County should have posted a description of this strange car when they made the Amber Alert. They've seen the footage. Always Amber Alerts describe a car. That's really, a great point, Carla. And I don't know why they didn't add that information in. They've been very hush hush with all of the information, Thank you, Brenda Brown. I'm constantly praying for Sebastian and Seth. And thank you for the green hearts and prayer hands. Thank you very much. I really appreciate those. Yeah, they're being discussed and shared all over the place because it's a humiliation smear campaign. They're trying to get it out there everywhere. So that way they can disparage and humiliate somebody and feel good about themselves because they're miserable and they don't have a life, in my opinion. Hindsight 2002 says, I did feel prior that he went home. However, it is becoming more conclusive, in my opinion, that what was brought to the 3 a.m. car was his belongings. I think he got in another car on the way home, in my opinion. I see, there would be time for a handoff there, hindsight. We kind of talked about that last night a little bit, how there would have been, a small window, but if it was just a quick handoff, then it definitely still could have occurred. And, that would be an explanation for the 3 a.m. lights, that they were bringing out his belongings, because it did look like a bag they were carrying as well. I kind of, bounce back and forth. Is it a blanket they're carrying? Is it a bag? Is it a person? Who is it? Who are they carrying? What are they carrying? Is anybody carrying anything? Kind of thing. But that would make sense. That would fit too. So thank you for that. Yeah. Scranton says, I think that she's trying to prove that his intentions with Seth are not good. She thinks Tony is giving Seth bad advice, keeping him from pressing charges against CP for child abuse. That is absolutely bonkers. Like, that makes no sense whatsoever. There's no way that Tony could keep Seth from doing anything, honestly. He could advise against it as a friend. I mean, it's just like any of us. Like, if I told Scranton, hey, Scranton, I think, I'm my best advice for you would be to do A, B, and C. That doesn't mean that Scranton needs to go do that or that she will go do that, right? So I think that's, a phony baloney excuse. you know I really do. Thanks, Lori. I just do. I think it's a phony baloney excuse to get up there on the hate channels and pass around bad information and have a field day with somebody who's helping Seth. It's just another opportunity, in my opinion, helping Seth out, that Seth has chosen to be his spokesperson. And who are we, again, to disparage him or say anything, really? Kai Kai says, I feel Julie wanted to be Seth's right hand, and she felt that since they're both autistic parents, she would be better than Tony. I think that is a great explanation for some of her psychotic behavior. I really do. I think that she thinks that she knows everything and she could do right and she could do better than everybody, and she knows it all. In my opinion, she definitely has that vibe that she's putting out there. Jealous that they don't want to work with her, jealous that she's not, so Seth's right hand gal, instead of right hand man, which Tony is his right hand man. He's his friend. He's there for him. He has been there for him. I think it's absolutely crazy. And again, someone who wants to separate or divide or segregate, they want to get in between things. That's what people who are toxic are super good at, right? They see a great relationship that has no issues and they insert themselves into it with their insidious toxic shit, and they infiltrate a good situation. We see it happen all the time in regular life situations, not even just in Sebastian's case. I don't know if any of you have been in that situation where you let somebody into your inner circle and all they do is try to, implode it from within. And that's been the MO of the other team, which there shouldn't be teams, but the battle lines are clearly drawn. When you have the proud feet who want to go on and bash Seth because they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions, that's what's going to happen. But this this group of insidious, toxic people, that's what they're going to do every single time. So, and I do think it's up to law enforcement, Rogue. I think that's a great point. Even if it wasn't in the case, she can't make the case move any faster. That's up to law enforcement. Yeah. But she was bashing law enforcement not too long ago. And I mean, like, really going at it, and inciting people to do things that are not normal and not rational and not helpful. But then she turns her focus to Tony, and the next thing she's going to turn her focus to this person. Anything to get attention. It's an attention grab, in my opinion. It's crazy. Well, guys, I better get off of here because I'm going to work on some stuff for tomorrow for us. And I think it'll be something good that, I think you guys will enjoy it. I think it'll be kind of more deep diving into these words and stuff like that. Thanks, C. Taylor. And I think it's really important to keep focusing on what they have said. Hey, C Star. Yeah, she's pretend advocate, in my opinion. I've seen some really, hey, KJ Mac, I've seen some really incriminating videos that people have been sending me lately of the things that Julie has said about her own children or her stepchildren, and some of the things, that were super highly embarrassing about their private moments and really disgusting. Something that, if I was that child's mother, I would make her take it down. It was that bad, in my opinion. I would never want my daughter's personal details or information like that plastered all over the internet for people to read. I think it's child exploitation, especially of a child who doesn't have the capacity to understand what is being put out about him. You want to talk about someone who's sick? I think she's hiding her past. Rogue says a beautiful young man who happens to have been born disabled, and it's not anyone else's fault, and he was just getting beat. Are you kidding me? If that's true, my God, have mercy on their souls. Rogue, amen. It's unfathomable. Cece says, I dropped into Julie's live tonight, and I hope Tony sues the crap out of her. Why does she care about Tony's finances? And Jay is for Justice was egging her on. And see, but Jay's complained about her husband and people being looked into and stuff and saying how that wasn't right. But she'll be like, come on in, Julie, let's talk about Tony. Do we see how that is not right? Do we see the hypocrisy? I mean, it's plain to see that. It doesn't take long to figure out. It's it's not like there's a huge map that's leading us to the destination. It's like a direct route. Boom, there it is. Come on. Unbelievable. Michelle says, Lady Freedom, us check up Kelly Schneider, childfind.org. Very smart, had a lot to say about Cajun Navy's cowardice and LE not doing their job and how he does things. He finds the missing kids no matter what. Okay. Kelly Schneider. Childfind.org. Childfind.org. Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. Vanna says, yeah, she said Tony sold his house to a family member for $1. That's not even possible to move a deed. It's $10, but without joint tenancy, it isn't a legal exchange. Julie is nuts, in my opinion. Amen. She ever heard of a quitclaim deed? I mean, get over yourself, Julie, and find someone else to pick on. Go get a life. Golly. KJ Maxx says, now what is Julie up to? She's really been a great disappointment. What a shame. I mean, left and right. Hey, Suzanne. I mean, come on. Julie's a hot mess. Hey, Jude. For realsies. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous. Scranton Strangler says, Lori, I think KP is worse. She is manipulative, and CP is her stupid attack dog. But don't be fooled. She is a puppet master, in my opinion. Scranton, the more and more I've been going over things, the more and more I think that's exactly right. I really do. Even in tonight's when we did the slow jam on Katie, it was like, she's like, go ahead. She told Chris, go ahead. You're allowed to talk now. Go ahead and talk. Like she was calling the shots for real, Detroit Rock City, that's why she needs to shut the fuck up. Yeah, she's got serious mental illness issues, in my opinion. I mean, it definitely seems that way. No normal, nice, well-meaning person does something like this. They just don't. It's just not in the same realm of understanding, Yep, Red, White, and Bethune. Yep, they helped find Gabby. They sure did. Thanks, Rogue. There's something about Clarksville when she nudges CP in that interview. I think they need to search the area exactly where, I'm not sure, but my opinion. Thank you. Thanks, SI officer. And I wouldn't put it past them to put him over there if they did something to him allegedly, in my opinion. Because they've been trying to pin it on Seth the whole time. She does need a Dr. Lori. I agree. And I mean, it's just the way it is. It's horrible to say that. I wish that wasn't true. Yes, they did. Thanks, Hey Jude. It's crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. But yeah, I'll have to go over and watch kind of a little bit of it. But I also wanted to watch because I know Tony was on Josh's channel talking about the crazy filming lady. So I have to go over there and kind of get caught up on that, and see what was said and all of that good stuff. Josh is a really good guy. I really appreciate him. And all of his coverage and helping Sebastian and things like that. Anybody, involved in the case that has ever talked about Sebastian, if they find out about it, they're going to try to throw you under the bus. And that's just how they are, Hey Jude says, KJ Mack, I agree. They would try to set Seth up. I think they wanted to throw him under the bus. Thanks, Hey Jude. My thoughts exactly. Well timed, and I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like, what the heck is going on? Oh, absolutely, Detroit. And this is the tragedy, right? This is the tragedy behind it. They're using her until they chew her up and they spit her out. She thinks they are her friends, and she's got a rude awakening coming, in my opinion. So well said, Detroit. I mean, that's what it's going to be too, Carla says, hey Jude, my thoughts since the beginning, they planned to pin it on Seth. Then then the whole world crashed their plans, stood beside Seth and pointed out red flags, red flags, red flags. Yeah, and also, we see a completely different demeanor from Seth. He's serious about telling the world that he needs to find his son, and Katie's over here messing around every 2 seconds. And I know a lot of people think that she's nervously laughing, and I get that, but I don't know, Well, that's a good point too. Rogue says, absolutely. Hey Jude, in my opinion, they have motive, means, and personality, in my opinion. Thanks, Rogue. I agree. Yeah, they do. The hate channels love hate Julie, for real. And, it's only a matter of time. Only a matter of time. KJ Max says 1000% the hate channels will take what they can get and she'll be under the bus when they have all the need they need from her. She's so blinded by her need for attention. Absolutely. And there's people that have come out and said, Julie, you have a lot to work on, and then you could be part of our team. But, until you work on these things, and you're not really a part of us yet. Yeah, they get them to, become their little gophers. That's all they want, is like a little gopher or a minion. I don't like saying minions because minions are cute. But that's what they do. That's all they want. They're not trying to, be friends with her. Hell no. They're using her. I did see, yeah. Hindsight 2002 says, KJ Mack, I posted a video due to untruth that was spoken about me. I respectfully asked it to stop. It did not. Therefore, I followed up reluctantly with my proof of truth for my own self-integrity. And, and I respect that, hindsight 2002, and at a certain point you have to, even if you don't want to. And I understand your reluctance. I really do, because it's something that we don't want to be focusing on. But again, they pull us in because they're trying to smear and lie and discredit and humiliate and disrupt and bully. So, you almost don't have a choice besides to come out and say something. But I respect you for, showing your integrity and protecting your integrity, because I think it shows a lot of self-integrity that you are willing to, go out there and stand up for yourself and other people, because, that she's lying on other people as well, in my opinion, allegedly. Hey Jude says, when Julie alienates everyone on YouTube, maybe she'll go away. She's just picking people off. It's just like picking people off, really. It's like she goes through the motions, and right now they're happy with that, Oh, good. Have safe travels home, Annette. Have safe travels home. Oh, thanks, guys. I see somebody here. Oh, Tony Fire. Oh, thank you for becoming a new member, Tony Fire. I think you renewed, though. So thanks for being a member. Oh, that's wonderful. And thank you for being a member of the Dragon Tribe. Thank you, Tony. And then Hey Jude says, or Hey Jude gifted a membership. Thanks, Hey Jude. If you get a membership from Hey Jude, make sure you say thank you. Thank you, Hey Jude. That means a lot to me. You guys are so awesome. It's not the place to play, Rogue. It's not the place to play around. This is a victim and the parents of these of these children. Yeah, it's the real deal. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not like anything to be played with. I'm not a violent person, but by any means, but if I found out my ex's new spouse was punishing my kid like that, I would have found them in a dark alley. Scranton Strangler, for real. I can't disagree with that at all, and that's how we feel, as parents and stuff, And C. Taylor says, Annette, wonderful, you're being just charged. Hopefully there's some help with that pain management. Thanks, C. Taylor. That's so sweet of you. Yeah. Hey, Jude says, I heard about Richard Bishop having a school today. Isn't that something? I think that's so crazy. Like, I want to deep dive into that for sure, for sure, for sure. Thanks. Thank you, Hey Jude. C-Star says, KK always looks up like she's looking up at heaven. It's creepy, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. That one was Katie when she was like reenacting the bowling alley clip. So, she's looking up at Sebastian because he said, you got wrecked, Mom. And that's Katie's reaction right there. But equally weird reaction, because I got all the ones where she was looking up and stuff like that. And it looks like she was, looking up at the heavens, unfortunately. Oh, thank you, Tony. Tony Fire just gifted a membership. So if you got a Lady Freedom membership, welcome to the Dragon Tribe, and make sure you say thank you to Tony Fire. That was so sweet, you guys. Scranton Strangler, Carla says, I was dating a man when my kids were 3 and 5, and the guy threw a glass at my Oh, son, oh gosh. I stepped in front to stop, threw glass back, smashed his face. Oh boy. Threw my 10 grand diamond in the snow. Oh, bank. Oh my goodness. Oh, Carla. Jeez Louise. See these crazy people. That's the toxic people that come into your life, right? You know, you think they're good. KJ Mac, I'm so sorry, Carla. I'm glad that you took a stand, you know, and I'm glad you're okay and your kids are okay. KJ Max says, based on what I just saw of Hindsight 2002 video, Julie was spurned when she didn't get in with Nick and others. Yep, she got a zero credibility left. Her need for attention is greater than truth. No bueno. No bueno. That's right, KJ. Thank you. I agree. I agree. I know. I hope the same thing, Rogue. I hope Seth isn't being constantly threatened by CP and his family. Well, and you know, there's a lot of crap going on like that, being followed around. Crazy. That's right, Carla. The kids come first no matter what. You know, even if it's the other, you know, their own parent doing it, we have to stick up for the kids. Hey, Salty Gigi. We have to. We can't let it happen. It's not good. Good night, Vic. Good night. Thank you guys all for being here. I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Because thanks Tony Fire, because I need to get this together, and I want to look into that school further. Good night, Scranton. Thank you guys. Thank you so much for your help with my doggy over here. I was like, poor guy, you know. It doesn't, KJ Mac. How will Tony's finances help find Sebastian? That's why they're all focused on it. They love it, you know. It's like they'd rather talk about that than finding Sebastian. They'd rather disparage others than find Sebastian. You know, they would rather hate on each other than finding Sebastian. Yeah, she is losing face, Tony Fire. And you of all people know what it's like to be in her path, you know? Oh my goodness. How terrible, you know, never apologizing, never, you know, nothing. It's absolutely crazy. Oh, I cringe every time she forces her husband Al and the boys on camera. She seeks attention and found it here on YouTube. Well, absolutely. And we all thought she had good intentions behind it, you know, and we're finding out that she doesn't, which is, you know, unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But thank you all so much for being here. Let's talk about the school tomorrow a little bit. And I can bring in a little bit more clips too. There were some things that I found tonight, but I didn't have a chance to get them all in. But we will talk about them tomorrow. And I just really appreciate you guys all being here and keeping the focus on Sebastian. I know it's hard with everything going on, but you know, I think it says a lot about our community and the people who are in it, just the way that you guys are always, you know, so kind to each other, praying for Sebastian, praying for Seth. You know, that's the best thing that we can do. And, you know, and just remember, thank you. Thanks, Lori. And thank you, Rogue. None of us deserve. Thanks, Hey Jude and Tony Fire, Fauna, you know, hindsight 2002. Thank you for being here. Vic, all of you guys. I love you guys all. Detroit Rock City. You guys are just, you know, the best bunch that anybody can ask for. Lori, you know, Annette, thank you guys all so much. And, you know, we can all pray together that things get better, but we can all do our part too, you know. And like I said earlier, I wish I hadn't given so much weight to Mr. Proudfoot, you know, and I think that's one thing that we can practice from here on out. But, you know, again, people can say whatever they want as long as they're not hurting others or doing anything bad. So we also have to just kind of consider that. Oh, thank you, Vic. Thank you so much. All right, you guys. Thank you all. Thank you all. I hope you have a great night. Take care and be safe out there. And report the bullies. Report the bullies.